Chapter 973. The mouth above was bigger than the entire city. With a single gulp, its target was still Dongbua Shuang. Just because it affected a large area, the Moon Phoenix Nation was completely destroyed. Before this, many beings in the Moon Phoenix Nation had fallen into the illusory realm created by Dongbua Shuang. When they were killed, they were still within the illusory realm, and they did not feel any pain. Wang. Dongbua Shuang was so frightened that his heart trembled. He did not hesitate to activate his two secret treasures. The 12 primal beads bracelet and 3-colored layered cloud were activated. One could see many layers of light covering Dongbua Shuang. There were a total of 12 layers. The surface of his body was emitting a golden light. There was even a layer of blue light protecting him. Clearly, he had activated his survival technique to the limit. Chi. On the surface, it looked like an enormous mouth was swallowing. In reality, there were two silvery white hands reaching out from the void. Nevertheless, Dongbua Shuang seemed to be standing in midair, yet he was hidden within the illusory realm. Those two silvery white hands could only forcefully permeate through the illusory realm. When they touched the 12 layers of light, this killing move that was determined to succeed could barely break through the outermost layer of light. Die! That pair of hands covered in silver white scales furiously swatted at him. Go! Dongbua Shuang did not dare to hesitate. His perception of the void was extremely formidable. That was why he could discover an enormous monster currently hiding within the void. It was like a silkworm cocoon. The enormous mouth that appeared in midair was merely a mouth on the head of the insect cocoon. Those two silvery white, scaled hands were the frontmost hands of the 12 densely packed hands. This was an extremely ugly monster, but after looking at it, Shuang instinctively felt fear. He vaguely understood that this fear represented that if he were to face such a monster with his current combat power, he would be in danger of dying. Fortunately, he had two external secret treasures with him. He could hold on for a moment or two when facing against Jiezu and Wuzu. Facing this monster, he could hold on for a longer period. Who would have thought that I would meet a cosmos god? But at least I have found a big fish. Dongbua Shuang hesitated no more. With a thought, the void beside him started to distort. He took a step forward and disappeared into the distorted void. Super long-distance escape. The huge monster was furious, but also left silently in an instant. Because he was clear that since he was exposed, there would be cultivator cosmos gods rushing over soon. In less than a breath's time, the surrounding void shook and distorted again. A black-robed, green-haired man appeared. He calmly scanned his surroundings. He was the void primogenitor who had rushed over after receiving Dongbua Shuang's message. He was the fastest one to arrive. If other cosmos gods wanted to rush over, they would have to seek help from other primal chaos existences who knew how to teleport through an ultra-long distance. The Moon Phoenix Nation wasn't some special location, and without a spatial marker, the teleportation would result in a huge deviation. Sending a message, asking for help to teleport, or rushing if there was a large deviation would take a long time. Void primogenitor who knew the ultra-long distance great teleportation could be the fastest to arrive. But he was still too slow. The enemy was escaping too quickly. Actually, Void Primogenitor understood that given the escaping capabilities of the Destruction Devil Kings, he could not stop them even if he could catch up. Damn! Void Primogenitor looked downwards. The vast land spanning more than 50 million kilometers had been affected. Not a single sentient being survived. Looking at the desolation, Void Primogenitor was filled with pity for the ordinary sentient beings. Damn destruction devils. The eyes of Void Primogenitor were filled with killing intent. On a piece of desolate land, there was a chain of mountain ranges in the distance. There was a religion located within. Moon Phoenix King appeared on this piece of land. He walked by himself with a slight frown. He muttered, "I have actually been discovered." The kings who sneaked in. This was the first time he was discovered. How could there be such a coincidence? That Dongbua Shuang suddenly unleashed his illusory realm, enveloping the entire Moon Phoenix Nation and coincidentally enveloping me too? Moon Phoenix King muttered inwardly. The arrival of Dongbua Shui Ying was too sudden. The moment he arrived, he unleashed his illusory realm, and he did not have the time to evade. Furthermore, under normal circumstances, he disdained from evading primal chaos existences. He believed that with his aura concealment technique, he would not be exposed. But Dongbua Shui Ying unleashed his illusory realm. Other weaker sentient beings had fallen into the illusory realm. He was a cosmos god, and he would naturally not fall into it. Yet he was exposed because of that. Why did he suddenly unleash his illusory realm? Unless I revealed a flaw, and he came specially to investigate? Not right. If I revealed a flaw, it wouldn't be him who came to investigate. Instead, it would be a group of cosmos gods who laid down an inescapable net. Moon Phoenix King shook his head. If he doesn't know that I am here, why would he unleash his illusory realm? Unless this Dongbua Shui Ying is cultivating and testing out his technique? Is he testing out his moves? Moon Phoenix Monarch guessed. He felt that this was possible, because it was normal for cultivators to comprehend their own Tao as they roamed the world. It was normal for Dongbua Shui Ying to unleash his illusory realm on all sentient beings in a nation to test out his technique. I'm so unlucky to be discovered by him. Moon Phoenix King felt unhappy. All kings had come to the cultivation world, yet he was the first to be discovered. Void Castle, within a secret palace hall. Many cosmos gods from the side of the cultivators were here, though most of them were incarnations. At this moment, they were all looking at Dongbua Shui Ying. A cosmos god realm destruction devil? Are you certain? Blade Emperor looked at Dongbua Shui Ying. Even though several cosmos gods had gone to the Moon Phoenix Nation to investigate, they knew that a terrifying battle had happened previously. But because the reversal of time was interfered with, they could not find out what happened that time. They could only ask Dongbua Shui Ying. He is definitely a cosmos god. Dongbua Shui Ying solemnly said. He was so strong. Even Black Emperor and Primal Chaos Hall Master could not give him much pressure at all. On the other hand, that terrifying monster made him feel the threat of death. This is the true appearance of that monster. Dongbua Shui Ying waved his hand, causing a scene to appear by the side. It was the appearance of that ugly monster. It had a silkworm cocoon-like body, and its head was ugly too. It had 12 arms, and its entire body, including its hands, was covered in dense silver scales. This is the appearance of Moon Phoenix King. Dongbua Shui Ying said. A humanoid figure appeared by the side. It's him. The previous time when we attacked the spatial barrier, he even acted. The expressions of Blade Emperor, Devil Mountain Primogenitor, and others changed at that moment. They had fought before. Hence, they were certain that this cosmos god was one of the kings on the side of the destruction devils. After that, the incredibly powerful Emperor June appeared, causing the other kings to not act anymore. They would only lend a hand occasionally before retreating. During the process of retreating, he did not act again. During the retreat, that person called Emperor June appeared, and quite a few kings did not act again. He is currently in the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. The group of cosmos gods present had solemn expressions. They could confirm that there was indeed a cosmos god existence amidst the destruction devils. This was also a harvest, since it was just a conjecture previously. And now, they were completely sure. But what made them not willing to believe was that one of the kings who attacked the spatial barrier previously actually appeared in the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. This proved that the other party had stealthily passed through the spatial barrier. Chapter 974. How could this be? All the cosmos gods present felt a myriad of emotions in their hearts. Even though they had some guesses, they were certain that the other party had escaped the previous time they attacked. The spatial barrier could not defend against the other party at all. This was something they could not accept, because the spatial barrier was perfect in their opinion. Dongbua, you have done well this time. You allowed us to ascertain that there are indeed destruction devil cosmos gods hiding. The spatial barrier does have some loopholes. Wu Zhu turned to Dongbua Shui Ying. Do you have any other discoveries? Nothing else. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. I did not dare to stay any longer at that time and immediately escaped. Amen. It is not bad for you to reap such a harvest in such a short period. You should continue investigating. Wuzu said. Dongbua Shuang knew that the cosmos gods would most likely be discussing how to fill up the loopholes and how to deal against the kings of the destruction devils. But this was not something he could do with his current realm. He could only escape if he met a destruction devil king. These existences were born to destroy. The kings amongst them were extremely frightening. In terms of destructive techniques, they were stronger than most cosmos gods. Shuang could at least escape with his life. Other 9th-level star pagoda existences might not be able to escape if they met. This was also the reason why he was chosen to carry out this mission, because he understood ultra-long distance teleportation. Xiao, the space by the side of Dongbua Shuang distorted. He took a step before tearing through the void. And within this palace hall, the group of cosmos god incarnations began researching on countermeasures. To the ancient cultivators, 100 million years was an extremely short period. It was normal for them to enter closed-door cultivation for more than 10 billion years. After all, destroying a cosmos wasn't something difficult for them. Dongbua Shuang continued traveling around the world. He used the most foolish method to envelop the entire cosmos with his illusory realm. There were indeed very few destruction devils that sneaked in, because those who could enter, other than the 2 generals who had the shadowless talent, were either cosmos gods or golden armor destruction devils who had a strong heart temperament and were at the peak of the 8th or 9th level in strength, because those with a weaker heart temperament would not be able to resist killing and destroying. The more they killed, the easier it would be for them to be exposed. Moreover, if one had a weak mind, the possibility of breaking through to the monarch realm would be extremely low. Hence, those destruction devils who were chosen and were fortunate enough to enter the cultivator's world were absolute elites. The majority of them were determined to have the hope of breaking through to become a king. Few in number and cautious, it was naturally difficult for Dongbua Shuang to find them. Another 20 billion years passed in the blink of an eye. This was a religion that occupied a relatively vast area. There were many disciples, and the sect master was also a great expert at the 5th-level star pagoda strength. On this day, as the sun rose, a thin layer of mist shrouded the entire sect. However, a gigantic black flower bud appeared in the sky above the sect. The black flower bud had countless petals, forming a total of 38 flowers of destruction. The reason why Dongbua Shuang was able to unleash so many flowers of destruction was due to the strength of his soul and the advancement of his cultivation base. Trying to escape? In a white robe, Dongbua Shuang was standing in midair, looking at a golden-armored devilish being who had already revealed his true appearance trapped within the layers of black flower buds. Open, open, open. That golden-armored devilish devil wielded his sharp blade and hacked at the black flower bud, yet he could only cut apart a dozen of them. Furthermore, the moment he finished, new flowers of destruction would form, maintaining a total of 38 flowers. Hong! A crimson stream of light penetrated through the layers of flower buds, killing its way into the innermost region. It was a golden-armored, devilish devil covered in crimson light. With a wave of his hand, he kept his comrade. Following after, Xiao, his body turned into a crimson stream of light. His entire body turned into a weapon that tore apart the flowers of destruction. Even though Dongbua Shuang hurriedly unleashed the flowers of destruction, the other party was too fast. He instantly penetrated through the layers of obstructions and charged out. The moment he charged to a distance away, his body would immediately scatter, turning into many golden lights that flew in all directions. Dongbua Shuang did not know which one he should chase after. After escaping further away, those golden lights had all teleported away. I'll let them escape. Dongbua Shuang was slightly vexed. All the cultivators of the sect below had fallen into an illusion. Even though there were some disturbances from the battle earlier, everything was under Dongbua Shuang's control, so they were not affected. This time, I discovered 2 golden-armored devilish devils. One should be at the 9th level, while the other is slightly weaker, probably at the peak of the 8th level. Dongbua Shui inwardly deduced. That 9th level devilish devil was unable to stop him from a start. I even gave up on him and focused on capturing the weaker, golden-armored devilish devil alive. Who would have thought that he managed to save his comrade? Sigh. I can only say that my flowers of destruction are still not powerful enough. Dongbua Shui shook his head. Even though his soul had become stronger and his cultivation had reached a higher level, allowing him to unleash 38 flowers of destruction at once. If 19 flowers of destruction could barely touch the edge of the 9th level, then 38 flowers of destruction could barely be considered as a 9th level technique. And this was only in terms of offensive power. In terms of binding, it could not even restrain a 9th level golden-armored devilish devil. Until now, I have yet to create the 3rd style of the flowers of destruction. Dongbua Shui shook his head, unwilling to give up. After all, it had been more than 20 billion years since he left the Void Castle. During this long period of time, he had spent most of his time on creating the 3rd style of the flowers of destruction. If he could create it, then he would truly have a 9th level technique. At that time, he would not be helpless against those 9th level golden-armored devilish devils. Unfortunately, he had yet to create it. Let's go. Dongbua Shui looked down at the sect that was bathed in the morning mist. Countless cultivators in the sect were still trapped in the illusion. Dongbua Shui put away the illusion and disappeared into thin air. The cultivators in the sect returned to normal. They did not even know what had just happened. However, some of the inner disciples realized that 2 of their fellow sect members were missing. In the following days of investigation, the situation was clearly worse. A king was discovered, and the other 2 golden-armored devilish devils were discovered too. They were all caused by the illusory realm cast by Dongbua Shui. The destruction devils were not foolish. They immediately guessed that this cultivator who could cast an illusory realm and escape through an ultra-long distance, Dongbua Shui, was most likely chasing after them. Naturally, the higher-ups, the kings, gave out orders to the other golden-armored devilish devils who were hiding in the sect. This led to Dongbua Shui, for a long period of time, did not find anything. He could not even find a single golden-armored devil hiding in the sect. Time passed. Dongbua Shui traveled across the 3 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void. Even though he could no longer find any traces of the destruction devils, his accumulations in his cultivation had become deeper. On this day, he arrived at a primal chaos land. He easily killed a huge devil that was wreaking havoc in the entire primal chaos land. Just as he was enjoying the unique delicacies of this primal chaos land, he casually waved his hand, causing a 9-petaled flower to condense in the illusory world by the side. Shui had cultivated and traveled across many places. He would often try out what he comprehended in his heart. He had tried it many times in the past, but this time, when Shui displayed it, he felt his soul trembling. That was a kind of beauty, just like when he created the 1st style of the destruction flower at the Unity Realm. Shui felt a sense of absolute beauty. It was the same this time. At the moment he displayed it, he did not even need to look and knew that he had succeeded. Dongbua Shui turned around. Within the illusory realm by the side, there was a 9-petaled flower swaying in the wind. It was beautiful and flawless. Chapter 975. On the peak of the ice peak, there were many delicacies placed on a table cut out of ice. They were all teleported over by Dongbua Shui from several cities on this primal chaos land. Naturally, he would leave some treasures for those restaurants, since he would not let them suffer a loss. TSK, TSK, TSK. Placing down the ice crystal wine cup in his hand, Dongbua Shui looked at that elegant 9-petaled flower that formed in the illusory realm. It was different from the previous 3-petaled and 6-petaled flowers that seemed to contain endless destruction. This 9-petaled flower was comparatively more ordinary. If one carefully experienced it, One could vaguely feel how vast and boundless the concept contained within this nine-petaled flower was. It was like a vast cosmos. That's right, in Dongbua Shui Ying's estimation, the third and final style of the destruction flower absolute art, the nine-petaled flower, had reached the cosmos god level in certain aspects. A flower is a cosmos. If I continue walking down this path, I would break through to the cosmos god realm. Dongbua Shui thought, but clearly this path is practically a dead end. Because this flower was formed by fusing the profound mysteries of the Tao of Mirage and Tao of Slaughter. If one wanted to follow this path to the cosmos god realm, the requirement for both Taos was too high. Instead, one would rather follow this path and research. Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, and three begets myriad existences. Everything had a source. Researching along a Tao, for instance, Dongbua Shui planned to research along the path he specialized in, the Tao of Mirage. The Tao of Mirage was the core Tao. It begets one, and eventually the myriad existences. If one cultivated a heterogeneous Tao from the start, it would be too difficult for one to fuse them together to become a cosmos god. Forefather Tian Yu, Sword Master, Void Primogenitor, Blade Emperor, and other cosmos gods followed this path and cut their way to the furthest point. Thus, relatively speaking, creating the nine-petaled flower was firstly to create a formidable killing move that would allow one to become stronger. After all, cultivators had to be strong enough to protect themselves. Only then could they walk further down the Tao path. Secondly, it was also to temper himself. During this process, it would be a form of tempering for his temperament, soul, and comprehension. It would allow him to have a deeper understanding of the Tao of Mirage, and his foundation would naturally become deeper. After cultivating for over 100 billion years, I've finally comprehended a ninth-level technique. Dongbua Shui Ying's youthful face revealed a complicated expression. It was a move of the ninth layer. This was what he truly relied on, a move that could allow him to fight against cosmos gods. Just like before, in terms of attack, there were many flowers stacked together. In terms of defense, the Imperial Dragon Legacy had reached the ninth revolution, and it also had voidification, allowing one to hide in an illusory world. He also had two secret treasures to protect him, which was why his defense was slightly better. He could not even stop the slightly stronger golden armor destruction devils. Previously, when he fought with a cosmos god, he had to rely on his secret treasures to resist and escape. He did not have any means to resist at all. It's finally different. Dongbua Shui Ying extended his right hand, causing the nine-petaled flower to descend from nothingness into reality. But its descent was extremely slow. Inch by inch, it turned into reality. The surrounding world energy was surging over, causing many cultivators on this primal chaos land to feel puzzled. With such a huge disturbance, was there another danger brewing? After all, Dongbua Shui had just killed a great devil and saved the entire primal chaos land. Many cultivators rushed over to the origin of the surging world energy. They tore through the void and rushed over. But as they got closer, they would fall into an illusory realm before walking back. They could not get close to the origin of the world energy at all. A full half a day later, for the sake of not affecting this great land, the nine-petaled flower only descended into reality after half a day. Truly beautiful. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at the nine-petaled flower in his hand. The leaves and flower buds were tender and tender. Water droplets flowed about, and every water droplet seemed to contain a world of its own. Only by relying on this will I be qualified to compete with Xinghua Emperor and Heart Imitation Religious Master. Dongbua Shui Ying waved his hand, causing the interior of the nine-petaled flower to collapse. A distorted black hole could vaguely be seen before it disappeared. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately enjoyed the delicacies. After finishing, he floated away from this primal chaos land. After grasping the nine-petaled flower, Dongbua Shui Ying continued traveling in all directions. He went to many places, but the devils in many regions were truly unlucky. At times, they were still in closed-door cultivation, and at other times they were enjoying the beauties. Yet they were killed soundlessly. Dongbua Shui Ying was clearly someone who saw injustice and casually killed the devils. Given his temperament, he could not bear to see those devils. It was fine if he did not see them, but since he saw them, he would naturally do something about them. Hence, it was hard to discover the destruction devils. But all sorts of evil beings were killed by him. It is really hard to find them. Where are these destruction devils hiding at? It had been 80 billion years since Shui Ying left the Void Castle. Other than discovering traces of cosmos gods and golden armored destruction devils at the start of the pursuit, he did not discover any more. Unless they are hiding in some desolate places, they don't dare to appear in some superpowers anymore. Dongbua Shui Ying guessed inwardly. It was also because of this guess that he went to some desolate primal chaos lands or deep within some mountain ranges. Regardless, the moment he peeped through the black fog spherical holes and discovered a location where many sentient beings were gathered, he would directly descend into his illusory realm. If he only targeted the superpowers, but to Dongbua Shui Ying, it was not difficult. If he were to search through all the desolate places, with how vast the primal chaos void was, he would only be able to search through a small portion even after 1 trillion years. This is myriad ancient sacred world. On the vast desert, a white-robed young man was walking in the desert. He peeped through the black fog spherical holes and discovered a seemingly ordinary castle palace deep within the barren mountains. At first glance, it seemed to be the cavern dwelling of a cultivator. But Dongbua Shui Ying, he discovered that beneath the castle was a vast and serene place. It was a relatively huge superpower. Let's go and take a look. Dongbua Shui Ying took a step and teleported over. Teleportation was silent. By the time others discovered it, Shui Ying had already arrived. Ultra-long-distance teleportation would usually be connected to a passage. Only when someone discovered the distorted void passage would they teleport over. To true experts, the moment they sensed the disturbance caused by the ultra-long-distance teleportation, it would suffice for them to escape. Beneath this ordinary castle palace, there was a completely different world. Underground, there was a huge and towering structure. At the center of the structure was a black pagoda. The black pagoda was connected to the surface and underground palace. Ha ha, Brother Chu Guang. What do you think of my life-death pagoda? A bald, burly man laughed proudly. He and an old man were sitting opposite each other. They were drinking and having fun, and there were beauties waiting on them. The two of them could easily see through the walls of the black pagoda and see the situation within. The interior of this pagoda was incredibly huge. It had a total of 18 floors. The first floor was also the lowest floor. Billions of cultivators were imprisoned here. The power of heaven and earth was completely isolated here. These cultivators could not absorb any energy to survive. As time passed, they would continuously weaken. However, they could choose to engage in a life-and-death battle. Two cultivators of the same cultivation realm could engage in a life-and-death battle. If one died, the other could enter the second floor. There were much fewer cultivators in the second floor. They had all come here after going through a life-and-death battle. Want to enter the third floor? Similarly, they would have to engage in a life-and-death battle. If one died, the other could advance. So on and so forth. One floor after another, there were a total of 18 floors. On the 18th floor, they would engage in another life-and-death battle. If they survived, they could leave the life-death pagoda. Leave alive. This was the gift of the Blood Cloud Pagoda Master. Interesting. Haha, truly interesting. The old man by the side laughed loudly. Brother Blood Cloud, you are truly benevolent. These people that offended you, you did not kill them directly. Instead, you gave them chance to live. There is always a chance of survival in the world. I naturally have to follow it and give them a chance of survival. The bald, burly man laughed. The old man muttered inwardly. The Blood Cloud Pagoda Master was a devour-type demon. Yet, he intentionally gave them a chance of survival. Chapter 976. Second night. Brother Shui Yun, I've heard that there is a golden sand venomous frog with you. I specialize in hex poison, and I require this golden, sand, venomous frog. The old man chuckled. Sure, sure. The bald-headed male laughed while rubbing his head. 50 Origin World rocks. You can take it. The two began bargaining. Finally, the old man paid 32 Origin World rocks before leaving with the golden sand venomous frog. The bald-headed male passionately sent them off. He sent them all the way out of the palace on the surface before returning underground. Big brother, that hex cultivator actually dared to come to our place? A black-robed girl welcomed him. At the same time, she sneered, if not for the sake of concealing his identity, I would have eaten him whole. You only know how to eat? Eat, eat. It isn't easy to conceal one's identity. The bald-headed male roared. Right now, that person called Dongbua Shuang has been searching for us. The three great sacred worlds are supporting him fully. If we were to reveal any flaws, we would be listed as targets of suspicion by the three great sacred worlds. They would pass the intelligence to that Dongbua Shuang, and I believe he would come to our place to investigate. Even though that Dongbua Shuang's strength is ordinary and can't threaten me, if he were to discover us, then this comfortable life would be over. You better bear with it and follow my rules. If you were to spoil the matter, humph, you could just find other generals to help you. Yes, I understand, big brother. The black-robed girl immediately chuckled. The kings had already given their orders. All peak 8th level golden armor destruction devils had to follow a 9th level expert. Because judging from Dongbua Shuang's strength, it was impossible for Dongbua Shuang to obstruct 9th level experts. And this bald-headed male was transformed from a 9th level golden armor destruction devil. Ha! The bald-headed male suddenly turned towards the life-death pagoda by the side. There's finally going to be a life and death battle on the 18th level. It seems there will be a fortunate fellow who can leave alive. Within the life-death pagoda, 18th level, a young man and an old man were currently fighting. Both were void gods at the Origin Birth Realm. Die! Accompanied by a roar, the young man finally tore through the void with a punch, penetrating through the old man's chest and shattering his body. After that, he continued to attack, causing the void in this area to tremble unceasingly. Finally, the old man was completely annihilated. We won. Only then did the teenager sit down. He was too tired. I'm finally going to leave the life and death tower alive. The young man clenched his fist. Father, big brother, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to see you. This period of time was simply a nightmare. He left home and came out to roam the world. Who would have thought that when he passed by a tribe to buy some items, this tribe offended the Blood Cloud Pagoda Master? The entire tribe was captured alive and thrown into the Life-Death Pagoda. From the lowest level of the Life and Death Pagoda to the 18th level. How many cultivators would be able to leave this place alive? As for this youth, his innate talent was indeed extremely high. He could have broken through to the Unity realm long ago, but he didn't dare to do so, because the battles within the Life and Death Pagoda were battles between people of the same realm. Origin Birth Realm experts fought against Origin Birth Realm experts. Unity Realm experts fought against Unity Realm experts. In the entire Life and Death Pagoda, there weren't enough Unity Realm experts to continuously filter through the 18 levels. Hence, the moment one reached the Unity Realm, death was inevitable. Wong. A spatial fluctuation descended and enveloped the young man. The young man revealed a look of joy. Hometown, father, big brother, and the girl he had always been pursuing. Although he had pursued for a long period of time, the other party only treated him as a little brother. But if he could see her again, the young man would feel incomparably satisfied. Who? Space changed. Finally, he left the Life and Death Pagoda. In front of him was a huge palace hall. The young man looked at the palace hall in front of him. On the throne of the palace hall, a bald man was currently seated. The bald man grinned. Little brat, congratulations on passing the Life and Death Pagoda alive. Once you push open the door of the palace, you will regain your freedom. Many thanks, Blood Cloud Pagoda Master. The young man bowed respectfully. Although every single one of them who was imprisoned here had incomparable hatred towards the blood cloud pagoda master. But the myriad ancient sacred world had always been a place where the strong preyed on the weak. The strong reigned supreme. At this moment, the young man did not dare to show any disrespect for fear of losing his life. It's a pity that you no longer have the chance to push open the door of the palace. The bald man laughed even more happily. The young man was startled. Let me tell you a secret. The bald man laughed delightedly. Every single person who leaves the life and death pagoda will only have one outcome, being eaten by me. The young man's expression turned pale. No, no. His loved ones, that red-robed figure that he had always wanted to see again. Aha. The bald man laughed even more carefreely. He loved to see the expressions of those cultivators who thought they had escaped into the sky before falling into despair. No, the aura of the young man abruptly surged. He directly broke through from the origin birth realm to the unity realm. At the same time, he began fleeing outwards. Do you think you can escape? The bald man chuckled. He was a 9th-level destruction devil. Much less these brats. Even primal chaos giants would only be sending themselves to death if they came in front of him. Suddenly, everything became quiet. The young man who was fleeing suddenly knocked against the palace door in a daze, causing the palace door to rumble. Nevertheless, the young man fell onto the ground in a daze and lost his consciousness. It was not just this young man. Many cultivators imprisoned in the life and death pagoda and the many emissaries and servants had fallen into an illusory realm. Only 2 people could maintain their consciousness. One was the bald man, and the other was a black-robed girl. Dome was swaying. The expression of the bald man changed. Big brother. The black-robed girl even rushed into the palace hall. We have been discovered. Hurry up and leave. Go. The bald man might be furious and sullen. He did not place Dongboi Shui-ing in his eyes at all. But he knew that this person called Dongboi Shui-ing had a treasure given by the 3 great sacred worlds, and his survival capabilities were formidable. Being discovered by him was equivalent to being discovered by the 3 great sacred worlds. He had to leave. So, the bald man brought the black-robed girl and rushed out of the palace hall. An enormous 9-petaled black flower bud was incomparably huge. It had already enveloped the entire castle palace. When the bald man brought the black-robed girl out, he saw that they had already entered the interior of this enormous flower. Many crystalline black petals were translucent, and they could see through them. Outside, there was a white-robed young man standing in midair. He was none other than Dongboi Shui-ing. Hua hua hua. The black flower bud was stacked in layers. A huge 9-petaled flower enveloped the smaller 9-petaled flower within. As such, a total of 7 9-petaled flowers were enveloped within. With such a powerful heart force, he could display 7 9-petaled flowers at the same time, with the huge help from the inheritance of Cinnabar to his soul, and also because he had eaten a total of 200,000 origin world rocks. You still want to obstruct me? The bald man laughed coldly as he suddenly rushed towards the huge crystalline black flower bud. His fist transformed into a rainbow-colored whirlpool, and when it collided with the black flower bud, it tore it apart with great difficulty. However, it was only able to forcefully break through the first layer of the black flower bud. When it came into contact with the second layer, its momentum had already stopped. With a single thought from Dongboi Shui-ing, the power of heaven and earth surged to form a whirlpool. Another 9-petaled flower wrapped around the outermost layer. There were still 7 of them. How is this possible? The bald man did not dare to believe it. His all-out attack was actually only able to break through the first layer of the flower bud. He looked at the white-robed young man outside. This shouldn't be the case. This Dongboi Shui-ing was only good at preserving his life. How could he be a match for him in a head-on battle? He should be able to easily break through the flower bud. Why was he trapped inside this black flower bud? The most fatal thing was that even if his body transformed into golden light and fled in all directions, the black flower bud was still completely sealed. There was no way he could escape. Big brother. The black-robed girl by the side was slightly dazed. Even a 9th-level golden armor destruction devil could not escape? He has become stronger. The bald man felt a chill in his heart. He vaguely understood that it was impossible for him to escape from this calamity. And in midair outside the black flower bud, Dongbua Shui Ying stood in midair. He had already transmitted a message to the cosmos gods, informing them of the situation. Chapter 977. Hong, 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 Hong. The bald-headed male had already revealed his true body. He had turned into a tall and muscular golden armor destruction devil with a pair of horns. He seemed to be crazily bombarding the enormous crystalline black petal. Under his attacks, the black petal broke apart. But after breaking one layer, Dongbua Shui Ying would condense another layer. He was maintaining a total of 7 layers of 9-petaled flower almost all the time, causing the 2 golden armor destruction devils to feel despair. As for that black-robed girl who had transformed into a graceful golden armor destruction devil, even though she was attacking, she could not move the black petal at all. Wong. Dongbua Shui Ying sensed something and looked to the distance. The space there was warping. It's here, Dongbua Shui Ying thought. Not good. That horned golden armor destruction devil revealed a furious look when he saw that. He roared into the sky. Hong, following that, his body completely shattered, and the graceful female, golden armored destruction devil by the side also shattered unwillingly. Her soul was extinguished. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression changed when he saw that. They actually committed suicide. Even though he could trap the other party with his current strength, it was still difficult for him to capture them. Who would have thought that the moment an ultra-long distance teleportation tunnel formed by the side, these 2 golden armor destruction devils did not hesitate to commit suicide? Wong, a thin and small male, walked out from that warped spatial tunnel. Even though he was thin and small, his body was so strong that he could resist against the attacks of Sacred Master. For instance, Wu Zhu had relied on many techniques to barely match up to Jie Zhu. And Jie Zhu and Ancestor Mother were publicly acknowledged to be existence's closest to Sacred Master. Furthermore, Jie Zhu's combat style was extremely direct. He completely relied on his body to fight, and he even dared to devour the enemy's weapon in one gulp. One could say that the destruction devils seemed savage and represented destruction. But Jie Zhu was much more tyrannical and savage than any king of the destruction devils. He was also much stronger. Fortunately, he was rational enough. By standing on the side of the 3 great sacred worlds, he would become enemies with Sacred Master. He would also deal against the destruction devils together. Otherwise, Jie Zhu would be a huge calamity to many cultivators. Suicide. The scrawny Jie Zhu, who was dressed in a loose green robe, glanced at them and shook his head. These little bastards died so quickly, eh? Dongbua Shui Ying. The energy dissipated when the destruction devils died should taste quite good, right? At this moment, Shui Ying felt waves of impact on his soul. When the 2 golden armor destruction devils committed suicide, the special energy that dissipated was naturally absorbed by him. Speaking about it, he felt ashamed. Even though he had stayed in the Void Castle for a relatively long period and killed quite a few golden armor destruction devils, all of them added up could not compare to what he gained this time. The special energy was divided into 2 parts. One was very pure, and the other made his soul tremble. It was too comfortable. Greetings, Jie Zhu. It's a pity that both of them committed suicide, so we couldn't capture them alive. Dongbua Shui Ying suppressed the excitement in his soul. His harvest this time was comparable to eating close to 50,000 Origin World rocks. That peak 8th level Golden Armor Destruction Devil should have the effect of eating more than 10,000 Origin World rocks, and the remaining were the help from the 9th level Golden Armor Destruction Devil. It's a pity that there aren't any materials left behind, Dongbua Shui Ying thought. He had killed so many Golden Armor Destruction Devils, yet he had only obtained 2 sets of materials. One was left behind by a 7th level Golden Armor Destruction Devil, and the other was left behind by an 8th level Golden Armor Destruction Devil. The total value should be more than 10,000 Origin World rocks. It isn't that easy to capture them alive. The scrawny Jiezu chuckled. Suddenly, the space by the side distorted and formed a tunnel. Following that, a figure walked out. He was none other than Wu Zhu. Wu Zhu nodded at Jiezu before looking around. "You are late," the scrawny Jiezu said. "I was slightly delayed. It seems that the two golden armor destruction devils have committed suicide." With just a glance, the sorcerer ancestor was able to find out everything that had happened. After all, this wasn't a place where kings were battling, so he could still easily find out what had happened. "Not bad. You managed to kill two in one go, and one of them seems to be at the 9th level. Even amongst the destruction devils, there should only be a few dozen 9th level destruction devils. Dongbua Shuiying, this 9-petaled flower is your new creation?" Wu Zhu looked at Dongbua Shuiying, praising. "It is quite interesting. With this, you should be ranked in the top 10 amongst those at the primal chaos realm in terms of offensive techniques." "It's a new creation," Dongbua Shuiying immediately replied. He also understood that what Sorcerer Ancestor said was true. After all, he had personally seen Primal Chaos Hall Master, Xinghua Emperor, and several other 9th level destruction devils acting at the Void Castle. But those who had a clear advantage over him could be counted with one's fingers, and Primal Chaos Hall Master was one of the strongest. Before he created the 9-petaled flower, in terms of offense, some peak 8th level Primal Chaos existences who specialized in offense could fight against him. When Dongbua Shuiying was accompanying Wu Zhu and Jiezu, he had ordered the two golden armored destruction devils to commit suicide. This had caused a huge commotion amongst the higher-ups of the destruction devils. Before those two committed suicide, they had naturally transmitted this information to the kings. One had to know, those who were chosen to be brought into the cultivator's world. Other than the two who had the shadowless talent, the other destruction devils were deemed to have a relatively high heart temperament and had great potential. Nevertheless, two of them died at once, and one of them was at the 9th level. Damn, this Dongbua Shuiying has become stronger. The technique he created could actually trap the apex golden armored general. These kings were furious. I really want to kill this Dongbua Shuiying. It's a pity that his movements are unpredictable. He moves around randomly, and it is hard to track him down. Even if we are fortunate to meet him, he has a secret treasure protecting him and could escape through an ultra-long distance. It is impossible to kill him. The kings were filled with killing intent towards Dongbua Shuiying. One had to know, it was extremely difficult to track down the destruction devils. Even cosmos gods had their own Daos that they specialized in. For instance, Forefather Tian used specialized in slaughter. Blade Emperor specialized in direct combat, and Devil Mountain Primogenitor mainly relied on his body to fight. As for the destruction devils who completely concealed their strength and aura, it was futile for cosmos gods to filter them out from the cultivators using some tyrannical methods, unless they massacred countless cultivators in one go, or suppressed them on a large scale. But the destruction devils could similarly disguise themselves as those weaker cultivators. As for scouting, firstly, they had to be able to cover a large area without injuring the weaker cultivators. Furthermore, they had to identify the destruction devils. Hard Imitation Religious Master had this technique. Dongbua Shuiying also had this technique with his attainments in the illusory realm. There were few 9th level primal chaos existences who had similar techniques, and only Dongbua Shuiying had the ultra-long distance teleportation. The majority of cosmos gods fought directly, and there were only two who had similar techniques. One was the high and mighty Ancestor Sorcerer. The time of Ancestor Sorcerer was very precious. Many things depended on him, and he did not have the leisure to search the entire place. Furthermore, if Ancestor Sorcerer dared to do so, those destruction devils would definitely hide even harder. The other was Jade Light Master. She had a similarly noble status. Furthermore, one could predict that the destruction devils would feel the deterrence and hide even more carefully. Reality was as such. This was the first time the hidden destruction devils suffered a casualty. The kings high up immediately sent down a strict order. All golden armor destruction devils were to hide in desolate and desolate places. They were only allowed to move when they were hunting. The moment the hunt ended, they had to hide again. If Donbua, Ying were to search through such desolate places with how vast the primal chaos void was, there would be no end to it. Chapter 978. In one of the primal chaos lands in the primal chaos void, there were currently 6 destruction devils living in seclusion here. The leading one was General Mogu. General Mogu, the kings have strictly ordered that we must go to the extreme barren land. The 5 subordinates advised, we are already hiding in the chaos land. Do we still need to hide? The tall and thin, triangular-eyed General Mogu gritted his teeth. Just because of that person called Donbua Shuang, what is there to be afraid of? Even if a cosmos god were to attack, I can bring all of you into voidification and travel through the void, much less a primal chaos cultivator. He had a confidence. Apart from his weak temperament and weak head-on combat ability, his shadowless talent was indeed terrifying. After all, not many cosmos gods could truly break through this primal chaos void cage. If he voidified, he could easily penetrate through even the 9-petaled flower. After all, the 9-petaled flower was also in the void. He could even penetrate through the spatial barrier that cosmos gods spent a great deal of effort to construct. What was a 9-petaled flower? General Mogu, your status is noble, and there can't be any accidents. The kings have strict orders, and we can only obey. The other 5 looked at General Mogu. General Mogu gritted his teeth. However, due to his instincts, he did not dare to go against the high and mighty kings. All right, let's continue hiding. But when can we eat to our heart's content again? General Mogu's eyes were a little red. Even his soul was yearning. Back then, when he swallowed Jade Light Empress and all the lives in that enormous city, it was the happiest moment of his life. Tens of billions of years had passed since then, and he would never forget that wonderful moment. The kings have already ordered that the cities where primal chaos existences resided would be heavily guarded. Every time a primal chaos existence was killed, it would stimulate the cosmos gods even more. It's only because of your special status, and because it's your first time out that you're allowed to act once. Do you want to move again? We have to wait for General to reach the peak of the 8th layer. The other 5 try to persuade him. The peak of the 8th level. General Mogu muttered to himself. How could it be so easy? Eating Jade Light Palace Mistress had helped him the most, allowing his strength to quickly reach the 8th level. After that, it would be more and more difficult to improve. Let's go. General Mogu was in a luxurious palace. His gaze swept across the entire primal chaos continent. Before I leave, I will eat all life on this primal chaos continent. It's just a small matter. The other 5 didn't stop him. After all, it was just a chaos land. There would often be some extremely powerful void creatures invading chaos lands and devouring all life within. As long as they concealed their aura and disguised their strength, even if the cultivators were to reverse time to investigate, they would only be able to see the appearance of cultivators they had transformed into. It was impossible for them to know that it was the destruction devils who did it. Very soon, amidst the despair of the billions of lives in the entire chaos continent, all of them flew up. The void distorted as countless lives pierced through the void and flew into General Mogu's mouth. After eating to his heart's content, General Mogu and his 5 subordinates quietly left, truly going to hide in some desolate land. Ever since the previous time, he could not capture the destruction devils alive to interrogate them. He had merely forced 2 golden armor destruction devils to commit suicide. Donbua Ying's subsequent investigations had no more results. Actually, he had guessed that the primal chaos void was ultimately too vast. Traveling from one sacred world to another was like a void god traveling through the time-space tunnel for 100 billion years. If he wanted to investigate every single place, that would be endless. The cosmos gods from the three great sacred worlds understood that the moment the destruction devils decided to hide, there was practically no hope of finding them. They felt that the mission of Dongbua Shui Ying was almost completed. They asked Dongbua Shui Ying to investigate. However, no one would be able to find out the truth if they really wanted to do so. That time, their most fundamental goal was to ascertain if there were any kings among the destruction devils who invaded, and if the spatial barrier could not stop them. If it was possible, it would be better if they could capture one alive and search his soul to find out more secrets. Dongbua Shui Ying was almost done. It was just that capturing one alive and searching his soul was too difficult. Cosmos gods did not have the confidence to do so. Like Jade Light Master, even though she could investigate a large region, she could not control the souls of the golden armored destruction devils. Even though Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm was formidable, these golden armored destruction devils had a strong heart temperament, and it was too difficult to make the other party lose their sense of self. Furthermore, the slightly weaker peak 8th level golden armored destruction devils moved together with those of the 9th level. Time passed. Dongbua Shui Ying was still traveling around the world. This time, it took an even longer time. Because he did not gain anything, he gradually focused on cultivation. He did not have much hope of finding the destruction devils. Dongbua, hurry back. One day, Dongbua Shui Ying, who was currently drifting outside, received the transmission from Forefather Tianyu. He did not care about anything and immediately rushed back to the Great Void Heaven Temple through ultra-long distance teleportation. What is going on? Dongbua Shui Ying and the other Hall Masters soon met up. Of the 13 Hall Masters in the Great Void Heaven Temple, other than 8 whose true bodies were in the Void Castle, the other 5 had returned within the Great Void Heaven Temple. None of them were outside. Either their true bodies are in the Void Castle, or they have returned here. What is going on? Forefather, is there a huge matter that requires our true bodies to return? The Hall Masters were all gathered at the residence of Primal Chaos Hall Master. After all, Primal Chaos Hall Master had always been their leader. The Hall Masters and Inner Hall Elders were all gathered. And in another courtyard within the Great Void Heaven Temple, there were 3 cosmos gods present. One was Forefather Tianyu, another was Sword Master, and the last was Blade Emperor. This time, we have truly troubled Blade Emperor for letting Blade Emperor personally protect my Great Void Heaven Temple. Forefather Tian, you said gratefully. Even though Wu Zhu and Lord Lo Chung have both acted to help your Great Void Heaven Temple, it will be safer for me to protect it. Blade Emperor chuckled, with me around, and by relying on the power of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Even if Sacred Master personally came and used his origin source energy to refine a secret treasure, even if he destroyed the entire 7-star oceanic sacred world, it would be impossible for him to break through the Great Void Heaven Temple in a short period. Furthermore, if he really goes berserk and disregards everything, by then, Devil Mountain Primogenitor, Jade Light Master, Wu Zhu, and the others will all act. Amen. Forefather Tianyu nodded. All for this day. The 6 great holy grounds had prepared for a long time, and even the myriad ancient sacred world was willing to help. Sword Master, everything depends on you now. Blade Emperor looked at the white-haired man, Sword Master. Everyone is prepared to start another war. Don't make any mistakes here. Sword Master chuckled. I can't thank everyone enough for your help. As for my matter, rest assured, as long as we delay for some time, I will be 100% confident. Hearing that he was 100% confident, Blade Emperor's eyes lit up. He nodded and sighed inwardly, as expected of someone favored by his master. He was indeed impressive. Everything depends on you now. Forefather Tianyu chuckled. Currently, my Great Void Heaven Temple's Hall Master and Inner Hall Elders are either in the Void Castle or have returned to the Great Void Heaven Temple. Everything is prepared and can be activated at any time. Since everyone is prepared, there's no need to delay. Let's do it today, Sword Master said. All right, Blade Emperor and Forefather Tian, you were looking forward to that scene. This was what the 6 great holy grounds and the myriad ancient sacred world wanted to see. Chapter 979. The ordinary disciples within the Great Void Heaven Temple had yet to realize it, but the inner hall elders and the 13 hall masters could feel that a storm was brewing. They had asked Forefather Tianyu before, yet Forefather Tianyu did not explain in detail. He only ordered, "From now on, all of you should either stay in the Void Castle or within the Great Void Heaven Temple. You are not allowed to leave. Without my permission, none of you are allowed to leave." The order was given. Dongbua Shui Ying and the other 13 hall masters were currently drinking and discussing. This is really strange. Forefather has never given such an order since the creation of the Great Void Heaven Temple. The Void Castle is the most important fortress against the destruction devils, and it is the safest. The Great Void Heaven Temple is also the safest. Forefather has only allowed us to stay in these two places. What major event is about to happen? I can't figure it out either. The various hall masters were quite knowledgeable, but none of them, including Primal Chaos Hall Master, could understand. Dongbua Shui Ying was frowning in thought too. Amen? Suddenly, the 13 hall masters looked upwards. The inner hall elders within the Great Void Heaven Temple and the other void gods and a large number of disciples all turned towards the sky above the Great Void Heaven Temple. Hong Long Long, the Great Void Heaven Temple was a sealed space. But now, there was an enormous lump of black light that made others palpitate above the central land. This lump of pitch-black light had strands of blood light seeping out. Just looking at it with the naked, I would cause all cultivators to feel their hearts palpitating. Even at the level of Dongbua Shui Ying, he could not help but feel his heart palpitating. Dongbua Shui Ying could vaguely feel that this enormous black light seemed to contain the aura of the supreme law of the primal chaos void. Terrifying, extremely frightening. He was a 9th level expert. After grasping the 9-petaled flower, his combat power was barely at the cosmos god level. He had fought with the king of the destruction devils that existed for the sake of destruction, and had peaked at the frightening scale when Wu Zhu, Jade Light Master, and other cosmos gods acted. But none of this could compare to the oppressive feeling brought about by the huge black light high up in the sky. That was the supreme law level of the primal chaos void. Even cosmos gods were merely ants trapped within this cage. What exactly is my Great Void Heaven Temple plotting? Dongbua Shui Ying was shocked. Why would there be such a terrifying commotion? It's starting. Forefather Tianyu and Blade Emperor raised their heads and looked at the dense lump of black light above them. Both of them revealed a smile. Swordmaster is really confident. He has just started his closed-door training, and he has already succeeded. Saber Emperor sighed in admiration. Next up, we will have to rely on Blade Emperor and the others. Forefather Tianyu said hurriedly, "My strength is weak. I can only provide support by the side." "Haha, don't worry." Blade Emperor chuckled. At this moment, he was carefully controlling the entire Great Void Heaven Temple. Currently, the Great Void Heaven Temple had consumed some treasures, allowing its power to reach an extremely high level. Even if there was an ultra-long distance teleportation passage, it would be destroyed the moment it was connected. Currently, the Great Void Heaven Temple could be said to be impregnable. 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. In midair outside the space of the Great Void Heaven Temple, 2 figures were standing side by side. One was Wu Zhu, who had many black shackles dancing on the surface of his body, and the other was the thin and small Jiezu. The 2 of them were standing side by side, silently guarding the place. As for Devil Mountain Primogenitor and Jade Light Master, who were originally from the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World, they were hiding by the side and could act any time. Amen? Wu Zhu and the thin and small Jiezu turned over at the same time. Behind them, there was a faint black light permeating out. A terrifying suppression was spreading out. Clearly, it came from within the Great Void Heaven Temple. This slight black light made Wu Zhu and the thin and small Jiezu reveal a grin. This Sword Master is truly an absolute talent. What he said wasn't false either. He actually succeeded in activating it. The thin and small Jiezu shook his head and praised. Speaking of which, this sword master has practically not experienced any great battles. He didn't even go to the Void Castle. He has practically been in closed-door cultivation all this while. It hasn't been long since he became a cosmos god, yet he has reached this stage. Who knows, he might surpass us one day and stand shoulder to shoulder with Sacred Master. The Destruction Devils are getting stronger day by day. Sacred Master is also a huge threat to us. If Sword Master could stand shoulder to shoulder with Sacred Master, it would be a fortunate matter for us. Wu Zu said, "Let's see how far this absolute talent can reach." Jiezu chuckled. "In a while, Sacred Master will be here. He will definitely be infuriated." Wu Zu chuckled too. "That's right. He must be infuriated. There is no need for us to risk our lives against him. We just have to obstruct him and entangle him so that he doesn't disturb Sword Master." Wu Zu said, "In the distant ancient sacred world, within the palace hall, there was a crystalline black stone bed. Sacred Master sat cross-legged on it. He had a calm expression. The servants serving him below were all respectful. When they saw Sacred Master through the corner of their eyes, they could not help but feel satisfied from the bottom of their hearts. This was Sacred Master. His appearance vaguely contained part of the supreme law of the primal chaos void. His expression, his aura, every single action of his seemed to be the manifestation of the supreme law. His appearance seemed to be the purest of holiness. His aura was intoxicating, and his voice was the most pleasant to listen to. Amen. Sacred Master, who had been sitting cross-legged for an unknown period of time, suddenly opened his eyes. That pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything looked towards the void in front of him. His expression changed slightly. As his expression changed, the entire palace hall's atmosphere became much more stifling. The servants were all holding their breaths nervously. It was rare for Sacred Master to be infuriated. Once he was, it would be an earth-shattering event. "How dare you snatch my things?" Sacred Master's eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent. At this moment, he did not even bother concealing his killing intent. Very soon, he made use of an ultra-long distance teleportation channel opened by one of his subordinates to directly appear near the Great Void Heaven Temple. Near the Great Void Heaven Temple in the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World, within the distorted spatial channel, Sacred Master, who was wearing a thin robe and walking barefoot, walked out from within. With a single step, he directly teleported through the void to the outside of the Great Void Heaven Temple. This distance would take the time taken to brew a cup of tea for a primal chaos giant to tear through the spatial channel. Yet he merely took a single step to reach it. Even though Sacred Master did not know how to teleport through an ultra-long distance, reaching his realm, he naturally had all sorts of abilities. This void teleportation distance was something only the void primogenitor could reach. Even Dongbua Shui Ying, despite cultivating many aspects of the Tao of Void, could not compare to Sacred Master in terms of pure void teleportation distance. Long time no see. Wearing a loose green robe, the thin and small Jiezu was grinning. His mouth was getting bigger as he laughed. By the side, the black shackles on the surface of Wu Zu's body were dancing. His aura was clearly rising. "Those who block my path should return to the primal chaos." Sacred Master extended his right hand, causing an ancient mottled pike to appear. "How many times have we fought? Why are you boasting?" The thin and small Jiezu laughed even more brilliantly. Chapter 980. The ancient mottled spear in the Saint Master's hand shot out like lightning, disappearing without a trace the moment it was thrown. Pooh! Ripples appeared at the entrance of the Great Void Heaven Temple from afar. The mottled spear appeared with a terrifying might and bombarded the entrance. However, it only caused ripples. Moreover, there were also traces of saber light that blocked the power of the spear. "Saint Master, the Great Void Heaven Temple does not welcome you." A cold voice came from another space. "The Saber Emperor is here as well." The Saint Master knew that the situation was bad. It was obvious that the other party had come prepared, with Wu Zu and Jiezu restraining them. It was impossible for him to easily break through the great void heaven temple, which was guarded by the Saber Emperor. The Saint Master extended his hand, and the mottled spear returned to his hand. You have too much faith in that sword, Master. My things are not that easy to snatch. The killing aura emitted from the Saint Master's body became denser. Let's give it a try. Jiezu smiled. Wuzu stood calmly at the side. Stubborn. The Saint Master's aura suddenly rose. Boom! Countless lightning bolts appeared above the Saint World. The gray lightning bolts were like huge electric snakes that swam around recklessly. Some of them even struck the ground below. These lightning bolts were unusually violent, but they were all around the Saint Master. The Saint Master's skin became slightly transparent, and there were countless lightning bolts swimming around inside his skin. He held the spear, and the surface of the spear was also surrounded by gray lightning bolts. Wuzu, be careful. The Saint Master has gone crazy. World Ancestor remained beaming. Ancestor Sorcerer remained solemn by the side. The black shackles on the surface of his body abruptly expanded and became longer. Every single black shackle caused the surrounding space to distort and collapse. It was as though the surrounding of the shackles contained the birth and destruction of cosmos. Clearly, World Ancestor Sorcerer was on high alert. Boom! The Saint Master took the initiative. With a single step, he arrived. The spear seemed to be simply thrust forward, but it contained a strange charm. The spear pierced towards Wuzu. Clearly, in the Saint Lord's eyes, Wuzu was relatively easier to deal with. Hua, hua, hua. 9 black chains danced in the air, each one of them profound and unfathomable, causing the surrounding space to rapidly shrink. The originally 500-kilometer space was forcefully shrunk to a 500-kilometer space, making it impossible for the Saint Master's pike to dodge. Within the 500-kilometer space, the 9 black chains seemed to fill every inch of space as they collided with the pike. Dang, there was a loud collision, and Wuzu was sent flying backward. Come play with me. Jezu laughed as he charged over. Scram. The Saint Master waved the pike in his hand. Although he wasn't a cultivator of the laws and profound mysteries lineage, his combat level was very high, and his pike was very powerful. However, Jezu didn't care. He waved both his hands and rushed over. His speed was extremely fast, and the pike smashed onto the scrawny Jezu's head, causing it to cave in and become deformed. However, Jezu was still grinning. He didn't even lose a single strand of hair, nor did his skin break. His deformed head was restored to its normal state. Pooh! Shio! Boom! In an instant, the Saint Master's tens of pikes smashed onto the scrawny Jezu's body. In terms of power and profundity, the Saint Master was above Jezu. Jezu was beaten to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. However, Jezu wasn't injured at all. His body could be as big as he wanted it to be, and as small as he wanted it to be. At times, his body would be as hard as a cosmos secret treasure, and at times, it would be as soft as a flowing river. His body would disperse at will and condense at will. Faced with this kind of enemy that could not be killed no matter what, the holy leader was also somewhat helpless. Go! At the side, numerous black chains started flying out from the surface of Wuzu's skin. These chains were very small, but as they flew out, they grew larger and larger. There were more than 10,000 black chains, causing the entire sacred world to tremble. The two of them. The Saint Master was furious. Wuzu was an existence that created the witch cultivation system. If he was given some time, he would be able to unleash some terrifying techniques. Clearly, this ancestor of witch cultivation had extremely sinister and bizarre techniques. If it was a one-on-one, the Saint Master wouldn't give Wuzu any time. However, with Jezu helping out from the side, it was obvious that Wuzu would have sufficient time to unleash his techniques. Boom! As the Saint Master and Wuzu exchanged blows, the entire sacred world trembled. Cracks appeared in the heaven and earth, but they healed up again and again. Within the great void heaven temple, Dongboi, Shui, Ying, and the rest could feel the terrifying commotion from the battle outside. What's going on? Dongbua Shui Ying immediately peeked through the black fog spherical hole. Because the Saint Master and the rest were fighting outside the great void heaven temple, they were very close to each other. Dongbua Shuang peeked and saw everything clearly. Saint Master. Dongbua Shuang saw it. He saw a figure that looked exactly the same as the one on the ancient saint statue. His appearance was neutral, and if he were to change into female clothing, he would most likely be considered beauty. His appearance was pure and holy, and he had a hint of the supreme laws of the primal chaos void. His every movement carried a terrifying pressure. Saint Master. It's him. It's him. An uncontrollable killing intent surged out from Dongbua Shui Ying's heart. His master, Gu Qi, had died in his hands, and he hadn't even had the chance to meet his master. This madman wanted all living beings to submit to him and be loyal to him. Not even their souls were free. Is this his true strength? This was the first time Dongbua Shui Ying saw the Saint Master's true strength. Too strong. Terrifying lightning surrounded the Saint Master. He held a mysterious ancient spear in his hand, and every move he made caused the entire sacred world to tremble. His speed was so fast that it surpassed the range of what Dongbua Shuang could see. He could only see that under the attacks of a Saint Master, Jiezu could only rely on his body to resist and pester him. As for Wu Zhu, he hid far away and prepared one terrifying move after another. However, the terrifying move that Wu Zhu prepared was something that the Saint Master was able to forcefully break apart. Even though it was 1 against 2, the Saint Master was clearly at an advantage. The entire 7-star oceanic sacred world trembled, and cracks appeared one after another. Too strong. Dongbua Shuang was shocked. One must know that Wu Zhu and Jiezu could be said to be existences that were closest to the Saint Master level. For example, the secret treasure 12 elemental beads bracelet that he had on him could only block Wu Zhu and Jiezu for 1 or 2 seconds. Like at this moment, when Wu Zhu spent so much time preparing his move, it was a move that his 2 great secret treasures could not resist against, and he would die. But the Saint Master could casually break it apart. A casual move of his could exterminate existences at the level of Dongbua Shui Ying. Destroying the world. Destroying a sacred world wasn't something difficult to him. The gap between me and him is huge. Dongbua Shui Ying personally witnessed it. Only then did he understand how big the gap was. No wonder the Saint Master, who stood high above, disdained from caring about primal chaos giants. After all, even those who stepped into the cosmos god realm could barely survive in front of the Saint Master by relying on treasures. They were not even qualified to fight with him, the Saint Master. Those who could fight with him could be counted with one's fingers, and they were all 2nd-level cosmos gods. To become enemies with him, I have to become a cosmos god first. Dongbua Shui Ying could not help but feel his soul trembling. He desired to become stronger. 9th-level strength? He was considered strong amongst primal chaos giants, but he was still an ant before the Saint Master. He was still an ant even by relying on secret treasures. Chapter 981. Dongbua Shui Ying carefully observed this pinnacle battle. It was rare for a battle of this level to occur. Although watching the battle was extremely tiring, and many of the moves were too fast and blurry, gradually, Dongbua Shui Ying began to gain some understanding of the battle. Although Dongbua Shui Ying could faintly sense many profound mysteries from the Saint Lord's battle moves, such as slaughter, destruction, light, lightning, all sorts of profound mysteries were naturally contained within the moves. However, all of these profound mysteries had a common origin, and that was the dusky lightning. The source of the Saint Lord's battle strength came from that lightning. Lightning had the power to destroy the world. It was tyrannical and extremely destructive. The Saint Lord and Jiezu are very similar. They both specialize in a single type of energy. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself, the Saint Lord seems to have everything stemming from lightning, but his strength alone is enough to suppress both Wu Zhu and Jiezu. Jiezu, on the other hand, specializes in the physical body. By cultivating his body to an unimaginable level, his body is so strong that it's even more terrifying than those secret treasures. Even the Saint Lord's attacks couldn't harm a single hair on his body. Dongbo Shui Ying couldn't help but sigh. He had an understanding of the Black Emperor's 4 great inheritances, and it seemed like it could cultivate one's physical body to an extremely powerful level. However, from the looks of it, Jiezu's physical body was the truly terrifying one. If the Saint Lord specializes in lightning, and Jiezu specializes in the physical body, then Wuzu is much more complex. Dongbo Shui Ying thought to himself. Wuzu's strength lay in being mixed. He had many powerful techniques, and some of them could even be combined together to form a terrifying killing move. Even Saint Masters would have to be careful when dealing with him. But his only weakness was that some of Wuzu's terrifying moves required time to be prepared. In terms of killing within a short period of time, Wuzu couldn't compare to Jiezu. No wonder Jiezu and Ancestor Mother are publicly acknowledged to be the closest to Sacred Master. Wuzu said that he had relied on various methods to barely match up to Jiezu and the rest, but he is still lacking. Dongbo Shui Ying nodded. In the publicly acknowledged judgment of strength, second-level cosmos gods were on the same level as Ancestor Mother and Jiezu. Wuzu is also very close to Blade Emperor. But now, Jiezu and Wuzu can only hold Holy Master back. They can't hurt Holy Master at all. Dongbo Shui Ying felt heavy in his heart. Sacred Master was able to gain the upper hand, even when fighting against 2. He was indeed an existence who could fight against all cosmos gods by himself. How difficult was it to kill him? I should first work hard to become a cosmos god. Dongbo Shui Ying thought. He knew that even though he was at the 9th level, it was still incredibly difficult for him to become a cosmos god. His foundation in the Tao of Mirage, which he specialized the most, was still insufficient. As Dongbo Shui Ying was carefully watching the battle, he suddenly felt something and looked up. In the distance, high up in the great void heaven temple, that lump of rolling black light that would cause others to feel palpitations suddenly fell downwards. It directly fell into the cavern dwelling of Sword Master, fusing into that cavern dwelling before disappearing. What happened? Dongbo Shui Ying, Primal Chaos Home Master, Inquisitive Sky Home Master, Celestial Water Home Master, and others were watching with wide eyes. That terrifying black light actually fell into the cavern dwelling of Sword Master. Ha ha! Forefather Tian Yu and Blade Emperor, who were responsible for protecting the place, revealed a look of joy when they saw this. That is really fast. Blade Emperor praised. It seems that Sword Master has accumulated enough strength to control it so quickly. It has only been the time taking a brew cup of tea. Ha! It is much faster than expected. Forefather Tian Yu was delighted too. He knew that the strength of the Great Void Heaven Temple would greatly increase from now on. The battle between Sacred Master and Jiezu and Wuzu merely lasted for the time, taking a brew cup of tea. Sacred Master, receive my sword. A cold roar sounded. 2 figures walked out side by side from the void. One was Blade Emperor, and the other was the white-haired male, Sword Master. Sword Master had a sword strapped behind his back. He pointed at Sacred Master. Chong! The sword was unsheathed. A sword light that brought with it a frightening, baleful aura swept across the world. It brought with it a power that caused the sacred world to tremble as it shot towards the distant Sacred Master. Sacred Master was slightly startled. He waved the mottled spear in his hand to receive the incoming attack. At that moment, hong hong hong, a series of booms resounded. The surrounding space was continuously shattering and distorting, and the flow of time was changing. In just a short moment, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Sacred Master could not obtain victory for a moment. Jiezu and Wuzu smiled as they retreated to the side. Xiao! The sword light rapidly flew back into the scabbard on the back of Sword Master. Sacred Master also stopped. The spear in his hand disappeared. He stood there and carefully observed the distant Sword Master. Previously, I felt that you were extraordinary. But now, it seems that I have underestimated you. Sacred Master chuckled and praised. You have become a cosmos god and reached the second level without anyone noticing. Now that you have activated it, you have successfully snatched away part of my strength. Seeing how you acted previously, your strength isn't any weaker than Blade Emperor. If you cultivate for a few more days, it isn't impossible for you to surpass Jiezu and Ancestor Mother. Sacred Master has overpraised me. Sword Master calmly replied, cultivating in a low-profile manner for several epochs. The moment he erupted, he could fight with Sacred Master head-on. Your innate talent and comprehension ability is the best ever since the primitive ancient sacred world was born. Sacred Master chuckled. In the future, you might be qualified to become my true opponent. By the side, Blade Emperor, Wuzu, and Jiezu felt rueful in their hearts when they heard that. They admitted that Sword Master was an absolute talent, and his breakthroughs were rapid. More importantly, they did not see Sword Master experiencing any huge setbacks or tempering himself in battles before he reached his current realm. It's a pity that you were born too late. Sacred Master chuckled calmly. He was not frustrated at all. You were born too late, and the destruction devils are getting stronger. There isn't much time left for you. I hope that you can reach the third level before your final lifespan. That way, the world will be more interesting. Sacred Master chuckled at Sword Master before turning around and disappearing from the place. He left just like that? Wuzu was slightly startled. He left quite decisively. Even after having part of his strength stolen away by Sword Master, he is still so calm. The thin and small Jiezu said, it seems that ever since Gu Qi foiled the previous time, in addition to the destruction devils becoming stronger, Sacred Master should have given up on some of his previous plans. Wuzu nodded. Previously, for the sake of venting his anger, he even used part of his origin source energy to kill Gu Qi. This time, even though part of his strength has been stolen away by Sword Master, he is still so calm. He should have given up on some of his previous plans. We must always be careful when facing Sacred Master. Blade Emperor said, who knows, he might be trying to make us lower our guard when he sees that we can't go against him. Sword Master nodded too. Ancient Sacred World. Sacred Master sat cross-legged on the black stone bed with a calm expression. This Sword Master is improving really quickly. How long has it been? And he is already able to fight with me head-on. His improvement is too smooth, and there aren't any setbacks at all. Unless he has gotten the Realm Heart Order before? Sacred Master muttered inwardly. It's a pity that I've only heard of the Realm Heart Order and never obtained it. Chapter 982. Eastern Unicorn, Sacred World. Within a restaurant, Blade Emperor and a blue-robed male were seated opposite each other. Realm Heart Order? Blade Emperor was startled. Teacher, you mentioned that Sword Master might have gotten the Realm Heart Order before? What is the Realm Heart Order? Why haven't I heard of it before? Lord Lo Chung sat there pouring wine. As he drank, he chuckled. Naturally, you haven't heard of it before. The Realm Heart Order. There are countless cultivators in the primal chaos void, and those who know of it can be counted with one's fingers. Sword Master should have gotten the Realm Heart Order before and used it. That is why he could improve so quickly in his cultivation. Naturally, this is merely my conjecture. Who knows, he might really have a heaven-defying talent, allowing him to reach such a stage just by cultivating in closed door. Teacher, what exactly is the Realm Heart Order? Blade Emperor asked. A unique secret treasure. Lord Lo Chung chuckled. Wanting to obtain and use it requires fate. After all, only cultivators with great talent and comprehension abilities can obtain the recognition of the Realm Heart Order. Otherwise, you can't see it even if it is right in front of you. Can't see it even if it is right in front of me? Blade Emperor felt puzzled. Secret treasures. There were indeed some unique secret treasures like the mottled spear that Sacred Master used. Its origin was a mystery. Like the 3 Fire Prison Realms cauldron, its origin was also a mystery. A unique secret treasure. Realm Heart Order? Blade Emperor had never heard of it before. Go. Cultivate properly. You are my disciple, and don't let Sword Master surpass you. Lord Lo Chung chuckled. Yes, this disciple will take his leave. Blade Emperor immediately stood up. He felt a sense of urgency. He was the highest leader of the 6 great holy grounds. His teacher, Lord Lo Chung, might be stuck at the primal chaos realm, but his realm was excessively high. His teacher created the Star Hall and was willing to guide other cosmos gods. Even Devil Mountain Primogenitor, Jade Light Master, Forefather Tian Yu, Void Primogenitor, Great Emperor Cloud Serpent, and others were willing to humbly seek guidance from him. After all, Lord Lo Chung was at the primal chaos realm, yet his strength was vaguely at the 2nd-level cosmos god. In terms of realm, he would most likely be stronger than the Sacred Master. Even though it seemed Lord Lo Chung would never become a cosmos god because he had violated some unknown taboo. But his realm was too high, and there were too many who wanted to take him as their teacher. It's just that he disdained accepting disciples. Only a few cosmos gods were willing to guide them. That was why the 6 Saint Lands had formed an alliance. The true link between the 6 holy lands was the Lord Lo Chung. As a member of the Great Void Heaven Temple, the Sword Master could also receive pointers from the Lord Lo Chung. Moreover, he was highly valued by the Lord Lo Chung. However, the Blade Emperor was a personal disciple, so the Lord Lo Chung was the one who gave him the most pointers. Saber Emperor left. Lord Lo Chung was still enjoying his wine alone. Good wine. The fruit wine brewed by this restaurant should be ranked in the top 600 in the Primal Chaos Void. Lord Lo Chung praised. At the same time, he pondered, when that old man Yuan left, there weren't many Realm Hard Order left. He told me that there were only 5 pieces left, and now there should be even fewer left. Coincidentally, 1 piece landed in the hands of the Sword Master. Dongbua, Shui Ying, and the others were temporarily forbidden from leaving the Great Void Heaven Temple and the Void Castle. But the group of Hall Masters still used their incarnations to arrive outside the Great Void Heaven Temple to observe the traces left behind by the battle between the Sacred Master. Wu! The battlefield between the Sacred Master and Wu Zhu and Jiezu? The group of Hall Masters looked around them with shock. The surrounding region, spanning a few hundred billion kilometers, was in chaos. Many places were left with void ravines. The Great Earth was torn apart, and the remnant shock waves did not dissipate. Many cracks could be seen in midair. They were the cracks of the sacred world. Destruction, slaughter, lightning, hex poison, all sorts of energies were scattered across the battlefield spanning a few hundred billion kilometers. Forefather Tian Yu said from the side, "The shock waves of this battle have injured the sacred world itself. It is easy to destroy, but hard to repair. This area is almost completely destroyed. To repair it, the Devil Mountain Primogenitor and the Jade Light Queen will need time. Forefather, the battlefield this time is quite small. I heard that when Sacred Master battled, he could even shatter a sacred world." The Hall Masters commented. Forefather Tian Yu smiled and shook his head. The battle this time is very short. Hence, the damage to the sacred world isn't that serious. If the battle dragged on, the surrounding area spanning a few hundred billion kilometers might be torn apart, and the damage to the sacred world would be even greater. More importantly, Sacred Master did not truly go crazy this time. In addition to the sudden battle, he did not have much time to prepare. The battle was sudden. Forefather, why is there a battle? What's going on with the black light above the Great Void Heaven Temple? The Hall Masters were puzzled. They did not know the cause of the battle. Sword Master's eruption this time was too sudden. Sacred Master was not prepared at all. After all, refining the origin source energy into a secret treasure required time. On the other hand, Sacred Master's reaction this time was relatively calm. He did not go crazy. Sword Master has broken through this time, and his strength has greatly improved. Currently, he can fight against Blade Emperor and Wu Zhu. Forefather Tian Yu said happily. He didn't want to hide it. After all, it wouldn't take long for the news to spread. The news spread rapidly across the entire primal chaos void. All the cultivators living in seclusion were startled. They were startled at the current strength of Swordmaster. In the following days, the great Void Heaven Temple remained vigilant. The three great sacred worlds had made their preparations. If Sacred Master were to go crazy, the ancient sacred religion would start a war with them. But everything was peaceful. After Dongbua, Shui Ying, and the other Hall Masters stayed in the Great Void Heaven Temple for a few billion years, Forefather Tian, you remove the ban. Dongbua Shui Ying continued to travel around the world and continue searching for the destruction devils. In the primal chaos void, two figures were fighting with each other, causing the surrounding void to solidify. Every time an explosion rang out, the solidified void would distort slightly. General Mo Gu, your utilization of the void is formidable. I admire you, but you are still lacking if you want to defeat me. The green-robed male chuckled. Receive my final move. If you can easily resist against this move, I'll admit defeat. The golden-robed, triangular-eyed male sneered. A stream of light that was as thin as a cicada's wings cut through. The solidified void was like tofu that was cut through. It similarly cut through that male in the distance. That male's body was immediately cut into two. Following that, he rapidly fused back together. It's just that it was extremely hard for his wounds to heal. What? That green-robed male was startled. How is it? The golden-robed male was relatively delighted. According to what we said previously, my current strength should be at the peak of the 8th level without using the shadowless talent. Forget it. There are also 4 figures standing in the distance, flying over at the same time. General Mo Gu is formidable indeed. It hasn't been 1 trillion years since he left the Lost World Corridor and came to the Cultivation World, and he has already reached the peak of the 8th level. This final move is truly formidable. The other 4 praised. The eyes of the golden-robed male, General Mo Gu, were filled with greed. He chuckled. The kings have said that the moment I reach the peak of the 8th level, they'll allow me to act once more and eat another cultivator at the primal chaos realm. Rest assured, General Mo Gu will definitely arrange for it. The 5 subordinates said. A primal chaos realm giant and the countless cultivators from the superpower he presides over. I want to eat all of them. The body of General Mo Gu trembled slightly. He was truly looking forward to it. Chapter 983. Within the primal chaos void, there was an extremely large continent with countless countries and cities. Countless creatures had once flourished there, yet now it was completely empty, deathly still. Wah! A white-robed young man walked out from the distorted void. He was none other than Dongbua Shuang. The looming great land has been wiped out? Dongbua Shuang landed in the city. The city was in ruins, and there was not a single sentient being around. He walked step by step. His body was constantly teleporting. Cities, desolate plains, deserts, villages, icy plains at many places. Dongbua Shuang remained calm. It was just that his eyes were becoming colder. Even though he had been chasing after destruction devils over the long years, he had discovered many places being devoured and destroyed. But this was the first time something as big as the Lu Ming Great Land happened. The Lu Ming Great Land was huge. It was much bigger than the cosmos. It was a place where the primal chaos realm giant, Forefather Lu Ming, resided. Naturally, there were many sentient beings living here. Are the destruction devils born from the supreme law? Dongbua Shuang looked up at the vast void. Even if all sentient beings were to be annihilated and returned to the primal chaos, it is fine to just destroy them. Why is there a need to give birth to the destruction devils and massacre them, perhaps to the supreme law that stood high above? It was a law that operated coldly and did not show any mercy. But Dongbua Shuang was a cultivator. When he saw such a thing happening, he could only feel the fury burning in his heart. Even the most chaotic myriad ancient sacred world had a large number of hex cultivators, devour-class cultivators, ancient cultivators, and other cultivators. They occupied their own territories, and there were experts guarding over them. It was not that easy to devour them wantonly. Those devils were slightly weaker, and their destructive power was ordinary. But the destruction devils that infiltrated into the world were usually at the peak of the 8th or ninth level strength. They were considered at the peak of the primal chaos realm, and the danger they posed was too great. I'll definitely kill all of you. The killing intent in the eyes of Dongbui Shui Ying became denser. South, he continued walking around. Dongbui Shui Ying searched everywhere. Even in some extremely remote places where only 1 or 2 cultivators were cultivating in seclusion, Dongbui Shui Ying would use his illusory realm to filter. The primal chaos void was simply too vast, and with such a detailed search, even 1,000,000,000,000 years would only be considered as the tip of the iceberg. However, Dongbui Shui Ying still continued to search tirelessly. There's also the golden armored layers. We have to do our best to find them. In a lost world corridor, the 2 incarnations were searching. Since leaving the Void Castle, Dongbui Shui Ying had also discovered 2 golden armored layers. However, the further they went, the harder it was to find them. On a floating fiery red boulder in the primal chaos void. This fiery red boulder was a remnant of the primitive ancient sacred world after it shattered. It was also thousands of miles in size. In the vast primal chaos void, it was considered extremely small. Now, there was a cave abode on this fiery red boulder. General Mo Gu and his 5 subordinates were within the abode. Phew. General Mo Gu sat there. He was so excited that he was shaking his head. This is too delightful. Delightful. If those cultivators knew about this, they would most likely be furious. It's a pity that the vast primal chaos void is boundless, and it is impossible for them to find us. I don't believe that there would be such a coincidence. This time, the few of us have devoured some too. It's rare for us to be so delightful. General Mo Gu has regained his calm. The 5 subordinates laughed by the side. This time, General Mo Gu had devoured 99% of the life force of that forefather Lu Ming. The other 5 had devoured the remaining. Naturally, because there were simply too many life forms this time, even if they devoured a small portion, the 5 subordinates still felt that it was a rare enjoyment. For instance, General Mo Gu had turned slightly mad when he had just devoured the life forms. This feeling is too wonderful. I wonder when I can go and eat again. General Mo Gu's eyes were emitting light. General Mo Gu, the kings have already said that the next time you want to have a feast, you have to wait until you reach the 9th level. The other 5 said, if one often walked by the river, how could one not wet one's shoes? There were only so many primal chaos giants. If one ate frequently, cosmos gods would definitely be more vigilant, and it would be easy for them to fall into the trap. It was only because General Mo Gu had a unique status that ordinary golden armored destruction devils were not qualified to act against primal chaos cultivators. 9th level? General Mo Gu felt helpless. This is too difficult. Golden armored destruction devils. The weakest were at the 7th level, and there were few at the 8th level. As for the 9th level, regardless of whether it was a cultivator or a destruction devil, it was too difficult for them to reach the 9th level. General Mo Gu felt that even if he was given 10 or 100 times more time, he would not have much hope. This is the order from the kings. General Mo Gu could only accept it. The destruction devils were born to fight and kill. The gray armor destruction devils all obeyed the orders of the blood armor destruction devils. The blood armor destruction devils did not dare to disobey the orders of the golden armored destruction devils. Similarly, none of the destruction devils dared to disobey the orders of the kings. This seemed to be rooted in their bloodline and soul. General Mo Gu opened his mouth. At that moment, a large number of items flew out. All sorts of weapons, storage treasures, scriptures, and others piled up into a small mountain in the courtyard by the side. These are all things that haven't been digested. General Mo Gu said, hurry up and flip through them to see if there are any useful ones, especially those cultivation scriptures. All right, we'll check them now. The 5 subordinates answered. To the destruction devils, what truly attracted them in the cultivation world was firstly to slaughter and devour. This was an instinctive desire. The second was cultivation scriptures. They wanted to gain experience from the inheritances of the cultivators so that they could improve. Every golden-armored destruction devil desired to break free from the control of their desires and become a king. But it was relatively difficult to find scriptures. The more precious the absolute art, the more important the location it was placed in. Like the Great Void Heaven Temple and Blade Emperor City, these holy grounds collected the most precious scriptures. As for the second-tier primal chaos giants, they collected some formidable scriptures too. As for the weaker Unity Realm experts, the scriptures they collected were much weaker. Even though the destruction devils were strong, they did not dare to casually act against primal chaos giants. Hence, it was hard for them to collect scriptures. This time, after killing Forefather Lu Ming, they naturally valued the scriptures collected by Forefather Lu Ming. Xiao. Many items were being categorized. General Mo Gu and his 5 subordinates were also studying these items. They took out some of the items from their storage treasures, causing more and more items to be placed in this courtyard. Good. This is an ancient cultivation inheritance scripture, and it is also fire-related. It is most suitable for me. A golden-armored destruction devil hugged onto a scripture and began checking through it. He was exhilarated. Even though he could not cultivate, the large amount of guidance within the scripture was still helpful to them. One by one, the ancient books were found. The majority of these were relatively ordinary scriptures. But the golden-armored destruction devils relied on their talent and instincts to cultivate in the past. How could it be as thorough as the scriptures of cultivators? Dang! Some weapons and other items were directly thrown to the side. They were disdainful of caring about them. MN, General Mo Gu hugged onto a total of 8 books. Suddenly, his eyes flashed with a sharp light. He turned to the side and stared at the bottom edge of a mountain of items. Just now, he had just thrown a pile of items over. Something is amiss. General Mo Gu walked over. He extended his hand and grabbed toward the empty void. He seemed to have grasped onto something. What happened? The other 5 looked at General Mo Gu too. So strange. General Mo Gu was startled and puzzled. He stared at his hand. I can't see it and can't sense it, but it indeed exists, and it is currently in my hand. Previously, when I threw a pile of items, one of the clashing sounds aroused my suspicions. That is why I discovered it. Even though they disdained from caring about those items, they were ultimately golden-armored destruction devils. And how acute were their senses towards their surroundings. The clashing of the items allowed General Mo Gu to discover an item that he could not see at all. I can't see it and can't sense it, but I can touch it. General Mo Gu touched the item in his hand. It seems to be a talisman. Let me take a look. The other 5 subordinates were curious too. Chapter 984. General Mo Gu and his 5 subordinates were researching on this item. Indeed, they could not see or sense it. If not for them grabbing it personally, they would not have discovered this item. So mysterious. What's so strange about it? It said that there are all sorts of secret treasures in the world of cultivators. There are even some mysterious treasures that are formed from these treasures that have unfathomable abilities. This should be some sort of mysterious item that was formed from the primal chaos void. They spoke one sentence after another. Even though they were strong, they were innately golden-armored destruction devils. In terms of experience and understanding of the myriad existences, they were far lacking compared to cultivators. Mysterious item? General Mo Gu's eyes brightened. He grabbed it and kept it into his storage treasure. This is my treasure. Even though his 5 subordinates were curious, they did not dare to snatch it from General Mo Gu. Mysterious item? Secret treasure? General Mo Gu was curious too. He would occasionally research on it, but no matter how much he researched, he could not find out what use this item had. Gradually, he threw it to the back of his mind. After all, to the destruction devils, the most important thing was to slaughter, devour, and cultivate. Time passed. Within his hometown cosmos, the entire cosmos was rumbling. Even the material realm and dark abyss were collapsing. Many planets in the deity world were also collapsing. The cosmos had entered the final apocalypse. Within an enormous primal chaos flying ship, there were many powerful existences gathered within the flying ship. They had all transcended and were at least true gods. Dongbua Shui Ying and his wife Jing Qiu stood side by side. They were looking at everything happening outside through the transparent outer wall of the primal chaos flying ship. This epic is about to end, Jing Qiu said. Time has passed so quickly. Snow Eagle, do you still remember the first time we met in the Xia people's world, Azure River County? That time, the two of us weren't even transcendents. And now, the 8th cosmos epic of our hometown cosmos is about to end. That time, I was still very young, and you were a stage 3 world deity reincarnated. You're much older than me. You're truly an old cow eating young grass. Dongbua Shuang teased. Jing Qiu curled her lips. You have experienced many time accelerated cultivation outside. You are the old cow instead. All right, I am the old cow, and you are the young grass. As the couple bickered, they felt much more relaxed. The destruction of an epoch was also a process. Although the process was relatively short, it still took hundreds of millions of years. The Almighties had all arrived on this primal chaos flying ship and were watching the process of the cosmos epic's destruction. They were also waiting to see if there would be any new Almighties being born in the final period of destruction. Only almighty existences that transcended the river of time could not be destroyed along with the universe epic. Seeing the end of our homeworld's epic, my feelings are quite complicated. Bloodblade, Primal Master, Monarch Green, and the others were also chatting. Although they had gone to the Great Void Heaven Temple a long time ago, they still wanted to come back to take a look since the era of their hometown had ended. After all, from the next cosmos epic onwards, they would be repelled by their home cosmos and would no longer be able to enter. At that time, they would be living beings of the next cosmos epic. Year after year passed. Dongbua Shui Ying and the others were watching everything that was happening. Moreover, Dongbua Shui Ying would often go to various parts of his hometown cosmos to personally guide some universe gods in the 4th heaven. He hoped that there would be a few universe gods in the 4th heaven who could transcend before the deadline. Because transcendence meant survival. It was such a coincidence that there were 3 universe gods in the 4th heaven who transcended and became real gods consecutively when there were only slightly more than 1,000 years left before the destruction. Hua, home cosmos, the interior of the entire universe was truly destroyed. All the planets, voids, and worlds shattered and turned into pure energy. It was like a huge paste that started to surge and spin. Within the paste, there was a primal chaos flying ship that was still within. Thousands of great existences watched from afar, watching as this era turned into a huge paste. Their hearts were filled with complicated emotions because their era had produced a demon like Dongbua Shuang. He had also brought back a large number of precious books and spread his teachings. As a result, cultivation became much easier, and the speed at which Almighties were born was much faster as well. It was only until the end of the epoch that there were so many powerful existences. But compared to the countless living beings in the cosmos, the number of powerful existences was still too little. Let's go, Dongbua Shuang said. He could already sense the rejection from the entire cosmos towards them. If they were below the void god realm, they would not be rejected. After all, true gods could not threaten the stability of the cosmos epic. But void gods posed a huge threat. The cosmos would definitely force them out. Xiao, the primal chaos flying ship flew along the torn cosmos membrane and into the vast primal chaos void. Bringing along this group of people from the same hometown, Shuang flew through the primal chaos void for a few days. He specially went to some dangerous places to let them broaden their horizons. After that, Dongbua Shui directly brought along the primal chaos flying ship and used an ultra-long distance teleportation to arrive at the Mirage City in the 7-star oceanic sacred world. The Mirage City was one of the 13 primal chaos cities in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Dongbua Shui Ying had an incarnation sleeping here for a long period of time and was responsible for guarding the place. Being a 9th-level primal chaos realm giant, his deterrence was huge. Even if the destruction devils had hatred and killing intent towards Dongbua Shuang, they did not dare to come to the place where Dongbua Shuang was located. They would be discovered the moment they entered the city. Dongbua Shuang arranged for his people from the same hometown to stay in the Mirage City. As for within the Great Void Heaven Temple, not just anyone could enter. Mirage City, because Father became the Home Master, a new primal chaos city was constructed. Go, let us go out and have a look. Dongbua Yu, Dongbua, and Qing Yao were relatively curious. They brought along their Dao companions and good friends to have a look. Two young masters, let me lead the way. At that moment, a butler and protector followed along. After cultivating for a long period, even though Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qing Yao were merely at the ruler level in the laws and profound mystery system, they had reached the void god origin birth realm in the ancient cultivation system. After all, they were the children of a 9th-level primal chaos realm expert. Under the nurturing of large amounts of resources, it was relatively easier for them to cultivate in the ancient cultivation system. Being merely at the void god origin birth realm was considered relatively weak. For instance, the disciple of Dongbua Shui Ying, Xing Huasun, had easily reached the unity realm. Naturally, that was because Xing Huasun was the child of Xing Hua Emperor after he reached the 9th level, and his bloodline and other aspects were relatively stronger. Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qing Yao could barely be considered average, and their mother, Jing Xiao, had a comparatively weaker comprehension ability. The resources spent on Jing Xiao was enough to make a primal chaos realm giant feel heartache, yet she remained at the true god ruler level. The incarnation of Dongbua Shui Ying had awakened. He was accompanying his family and good friends in the Mirage City. Amongst the primal chaos realm, the status of Dongbua Shui Ying was increasingly recognized, especially those at the top like Heart Imitation Religious Master and Primal Chaos Hall Master. They were treated as equals by the cosmos gods. They knew that the golden armor destruction devils had infiltrated into the world, and that it was Dongbua Shui Ying who was pursuing after them. He had even killed a 9th-level golden armor destruction devil, and had been bitterly pursuing after them, regardless of whether it was because of his combat power or the contributions that Dongbua Shui Ying had made for the cultivators. The 9th-level primal chaos realm experts were filled with respect and admiration for him. The status of Dongbua Shui Ying had allowed the cultivation journey of his children to be smoother. But Dongbua Shui Ying himself was not satisfied. Even though he had been searching for the destruction devils, casting the illusory realm was as easy as lifting his hand. During this bitter journey, he had spent most of his time on cultivation, hoping to reach the cosmos god realm one day. Even though the road was long, he continued walking forward step by step. Chapter 985. Within the primal chaos void, there was a black river revolving around a small piece of land. There were cultivation cavern dwellings on this land, and several tens of millions of living beings. This was considered a very small place. South, a white-robed young man appeared above this black river. He looked down at the distant small land, and an illusory realm had descended. Because there was no suppression from the sacred world, Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm region was too vast. This land and river added up could not even cover 1/100th of the limit of Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm. Naturally, other than Dongbua Shui Ying being powerful, the main reason was that this land was too small. This unity realm cultivator who lived in seclusion had caused several tens of millions of living beings to fall into his illusory realm. Amen? Isn't it? Dongbua Shui Ying softly shook his head. According to the intelligence reports, the probability of them hiding in this huge region is indeed higher. Dongbua Shui Ying sighed inwardly. The destruction devils did not have ultra-long distance teleportation. It was hard for them to travel through the primal chaos void in the sacred world. Those huge operations against primal chaos existences would require them to travel for a long period before arriving at a certain location. As for those small-scale massacres, the destruction devils believed that they were not willing to spend too much time on their journey. Hence, according to this point, they would draw out the surrounding regions where they would devour and slaughter. Currently, Dongbua Shuang was focusing on investigating these regions. It's a pity that he did not have any success. The primal chaos void was simply too big. Amen. Dongbua Shuang peered through the black fog spherical hole in all directions, searching for the next place with living beings. He would at least search for places with living beings. If the destruction devils were hiding in a certain place, they would definitely be extremely careful. Hence, peering through the black fog spherical hole was unable to hide at all. Under his observation, many scenes could be easily observed. A valley exploded. It's still a failure. The experiment has failed again. A hex cultivator who lived in seclusion here roared out angrily. There were natives living peacefully on the primal chaos land within a cosmos. There were people who believed in the ancestor mother religion, in a huge primal chaos land with trillions of living beings outside a dilapidated shrine. There were millions of people kneeling on the ground. Sir Skywind, please save our world. Lord Skywind, please descend. Lord Tianfeng. Millions of people were yearning for it. All of them were cultivators, and even the weakest among them was at the divine spirit level. Mighty Ancestor Mother, mighty Sacred Master, almighty existences, as long as you can save our world, we are willing to believe in you. Ancestor Mother, Sacred Master, save our world. Among them, many people were also shouting crazily. Their eyes were filled with despair. The cosmos was relatively closed off from the rest of the cosmos, and the primal chaos land and the outer world were still able to communicate with each other. Hence, they knew of the final cultivation realm, the cosmos god realm. They also knew that the legendary Sacred Master and Ancestor Mother were willing to accept faith. But in the vast primal chaos void, it was unknown how much larger it was. The supreme law was also much more mysterious and unfathomable than the laws of the cosmos. Just the mention of a name could cause both Sacred Master and Ancestor Mother to be unable to sense it. Ha ha ha! The dense fog gradually appeared in midair, and an enormous figure was faintly discernible. It's coming! It's coming! No! The people who were kneeling and praying revealed looks of terror. You are praying to old Ghost Skywind? Ha ha! Old Ghost Skywind has already fled and does not dare to return. Yet you are still praying to him? The enormous figure in the fog let out a voice that reverberated throughout the world. I am already very benevolent. I will only devour a small portion each time. It will not harm the foundation of the entire world. You are a devil. You are treating everyone in our world as livestock, eating one batch and raising another batch. Sacred Master, Ancestor Mother, we are begging you, please kill this devil. These people were shouting with hope. The difference in strength was too great, and they could not resist at all. Facing death, they could only carry out illusory prayers. Beg? Ha ha! It is useless no matter who you beg. The enormous figure in the fog laughed. Through the black fog sphere, Dongbua Shuang was able to see what was happening. Xiao. First, he teleported to a nearby location to prevent alerting the enemy. After that, he teleported directly to this primal chaos land. Beg, beg, beg louder, huh? The enormous figure had already lowered his head and was about to start devouring. And Dongbua Shuang suddenly appeared in the sky. Huh! An incomparably huge, illusory realm descended. Not only did it envelop this land, it even enveloped the surrounding 100 times of the land. Trillions of life forms and even the void creatures hiding at the borders of the primal chaos land fell into the illusory realm. Every single one of them had their own experiences in the illusory realm. Through the illusory realm, they could understand the past experiences and desires of the trillions of life forms. Even in the illusory realm, Dongbua Shui Ying had given them opportunities. Some had fortuitous encounters in the illusory realm and even obtained cultivation inheritances. Some had sufficient time to temper themselves in the illusory realm, allowing them to hone their powerful sword techniques. When they woke up, the majority of the primal chaos land had forgotten about it. They did not even know that they had fallen into the illusory realm. As for those who had passed through Dongbua Shui Ying's test and obtained fortuitous encounters, they could clearly remember everything that they had experienced in the illusory realm. Furthermore, the inheritances they obtained were much stronger than the strongest inheritances on this land. As for the devils were killed by Dongbua Shui Ying in the illusory realm. I didn't find them again, but there are indeed some decent young fellows. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled before leaving this primal chaos land. Very few of those who woke up in the primal chaos land could still remember their teachers, seniors, and experts. Old Ancestor Snow Eagle, Ala Master Dongbo, guess the Dongbo. Dongbua Shui Ying continued walking around in search of traces of destruction devils. As he executed the illusory realm, he was also continuously challenging his limits. Currently, he could allow the trillions of life forms to have their own encounters with a single thought. Furthermore, they were not chaotic at all and had their own rules. Living in the illusory realm was similar to living in reality. The operation of the internal laws was not much different from the operation of a cosmos. What they learned in the illusory realm and how they cultivated was a genuine improvement. Within the illusory realm, 100 years might have passed in just a short moment. And this 100 years of cultivation was a genuine improvement. This was absolutely a heaven-defying time acceleration technique. Amen? Standing alone in the vast primal chaos void, Dongbua Shui Ying casually waved his hand, causing an illusory realm world to form. It enveloped a cultivator living in seclusion in the distance. But when he executed it, Dongbua Shui Ying felt a strange sense of beauty. It was too beautiful. Having the experience of creating the destruction flower, Dongbua Shui Ying revealed a joyous look. There were no destruction devils in the distant seclusion grounds, but Dongbua Shui Ying was not disappointed at all. Instead, he was wild with joy. This illusory realm world. Dongbua Shui Ying was incredibly excited. Finally succeeded. He had always been chasing after it. He was chasing after raising his Tao of Mirage to the 9th level. One had to know that the limit of the Cinnabar inheritance was merely the 9th transformation of Cinnabar, and that was merely at the 8th level strength. It was too difficult to reach the 9th level on a single path. Dongbua Shui Ying had created the 3rd style of the destruction flower just a few tens of billions of years after leaving the Void Castle. But now, it had been 1 trillion years since he left the Void Castle. His accumulations were sufficient, and he had his own understanding of the Cosmos God Realm. But it was too difficult to take this step. An illusory realm world at the 9th level. Dongbua Shui Ying revealed a grin. He was satisfied. This illusory realm world already had part of the Cosmos God Realm. At least it was still lacking in some aspects. Hence, it was only at the 9th level. My Cinnabar inheritance. With a thought, Dongbua Shui Ying immediately began modifying the structure of the illusory realm world within his Cinnabar inheritance. The illusory realm world of Cinnabar inheritance had been modified many times in the past, yet there had never been any qualitative change. But this time it was different. Long, his soul was ringing. The qualitative change of the Cinnabar inheritance had strengthened his soul. A resounding cry reverberated across the endless void. A huge and beautiful Cinnabar appeared behind Dongbua Shui Ying. It was incomparably huge, and its fiery red wings enveloped in all directions. Its power was so great that it caused many worlds to appear in the surrounding billions of kilometers. Within the illusory realm world, myriad existences were gradually being born. To those myriad existences, this illusory realm world was real. Clearly, Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm world was quite lacking compared to the real cosmos. This is the 10th transformation of Cinnabar. Dongbua Shuang thought as he felt his soul becoming stronger. Today, he was participating in an activity in SH, and it was slightly late for him to reach the hotel. Damn, it was already one night today. He would first record the debt in his account. Star. Chapter 986. After creating the unprecedented 10th transformation of Cinnabar, even though Dongbua Shuang felt excited and joyful, he understood in his heart that there was an even greater difficulty ahead of him, becoming a cosmos god. This was the final realm of cultivation and also the final major realm breakthrough. As for the so-called first level, second level, and third level cosmos god, they were merely 3 levels within the cosmos god great realm. I can create the 3rd style of the destruction flower and the 10th transformation of Cinnabar. These are 2 9th level techniques, and I believe it is possible for me to break through to the cosmos god realm. Dongbua Shuang became more confident. Other 9th level primal chaos giants would usually grasp a single 9th level technique, yet he currently grasped 2. So. Dongbua Shuang continued traveling across the primal chaos void. Even though he was considered young amongst primal chaos giants, in terms of understanding of the primal chaos void and the number of mystical and hidden places he had visited, he would most likely be ranked at the forefront. This kind of crazy exploration had also allowed Dongbua Shuang to obtain some precious materials. But given his realm, he did not care too much about these. There isn't anything here either. Standing on a piece of desolate primal chaos void land, the white-robed Dongbua Shuang stood there. He was once again peering through the black fog spherical hole. Many traces of life were being peeped through. There was a primal chaos land, there was a cosmos, and there was a cavern dwelling hidden in seclusion. Amen? Dongbua Shuang peered through more than 1,000 places before his expression suddenly changed. As he peeped through, there was a cavern dwelling hidden on top of a fiery red boulder in the void. There were 6 cultivators within the cavern dwelling, and they seemed to be at the Unity realm. Within one of the palace halls of this cavern dwelling, there was a triangular-eyed male seated on a throne. He was casually flipping through an absolute art scripture. Suddenly, he waved his hand, causing more than 1,000 figures to appear in this palace hall. These people who were teleported out were relatively weak. Most of them were at the deity or world deity realm. There were only 2 at the true god realm. Devil. When 1,000+ people were teleported out, expressions of shock and anger appeared on their faces. However, under the pressure of that invisible power, they were unable to resist. You're just food. Don't resist. The triangular-eyed man laughed strangely. His fierce eyes looked at the cultivators. Swoosh. When Dongbua Shuang saw this, his expression changed. Another evil demon? A devour-type cultivator? He did not think that the other party was a destruction devil. Because over the long years, he had chased after and killed too many devils, and countless devils had been killed by him. So when he encountered this kind of thing, his first reaction was that he had encountered another evil devil. Shuang would kill those cultivators who wantonly devoured humans without mercy the moment he met them. Immediately, Dongbua Shuang teleported close to the location and teleported over. The fiery red boulder, the cave dwelling, the hall. General Mo sat high up, his evil eyes surveying the thousands of weak cultivators below him. Looking at their despairing and angry expressions as well as their curses, General Mo became even happier. Ha ha, no matter how much you curse, you will just be food. Devil. Evil devil. These cultivators looked at General Mo, who was emitting a bloody and brutal aura. Their hearts were filled with endless resentment. Because countless cultivators like them were captured alive, they were kept in captivity, and then they were transported out in waves. They could guess that it would not be a good ending for them after being teleported out. Ah, that's right. I am an evil devil, a devil. General Emogu laughed before opening his mouth. A devouring energy enveloped those 1,000+ cultivators. But at this moment, A white-robed young man appeared above the fiery red boulder. Humph! A cold snort. The illusory realm descended. The grand illusory realm was endless. Being a ninth-level technique, a technique at the Cosmos God level, not only did it cover a vast area, its power was horrifying too. Within this cavern dwelling, there were a total of 6 destruction devils, including General Mogu. General Mogu was preparing to devour them. When the illusory realm descended, he could not resist at all and fell into the illusory realm. He was completely blinded. Actually, even if General Mogu displayed as shadowless, he would still fall into the illusory realm if he happened to be within the region of the illusory realm. Because the greatest weakness of General Mogu, who had the shadowless talent, was his soul. The illusory realm directly targeted the soul. His willpower was far from sufficient, and he naturally fell for it. If General Mogu's willpower was strong, it would be much more frightening. One had to know that in terms of techniques that targeted the soul, Dongbua Shui was faintly ranked first amongst the cultivators. Only heart imitation religious master could compare with him. As for Cosmos gods, like Forefather Tianyu, Sword Master, Blade Emperor, Jade Light Master, Jiezu, Sacred Master, and Ancestor Mother, none of them specialized in soul attacks. For instance, Wuzu, even though he had some soul attack techniques, this was ultimately not the path he took to become a Cosmos god. Every ultra-strong expert had their own specialties. Dongbua Shui specialized in the Tao of Mirage. Furthermore, he had pushed it to the 9th level, and in terms of profoundness, he could barely reach the Cosmos God level. Cultivators had their own Tao paths. There was not a single Cosmos god who relied on soul techniques to become a Cosmos god. Hence, in terms of dealing against the soul, Dongbua Shui was faintly ranked first. These destruction devils that were nurtured within the nest were relatively weaker in terms of their heart temperament compared to cultivators. Hence, the other 5 destruction devils within the cavern dwelling became numb one after another. Their bodies softened and fell down one after another. Only one of them staggered, yet his eyes lit up. He roared out with shock and anger. Dongbua Shui, including General Mogu, all 5 of them fell down and fell into the illusory realm. Only one of them could barely maintain his consciousness. One had to know, this team had 2 9th-level experts, and the rest were at the peak of the 8th level. Clearly, one of the 9th-level experts had fallen into the illusory realm and could not resist at all. If a cultivator at the 9th level was here, they might be affected by the terrifying illusory realm created by Dongbua Shui and could only exert a small portion of their strength. But it was impossible for them to fall into a state of complete helplessness. Nonetheless, only one of the destruction devils could maintain his consciousness. The moment they fell down, they could no longer maintain the secret technique of concealing their aura. Naturally, all of them released their aura. They did not conceal their aura of destruction, and the moment they released their aura, they suffered from the rejection of the supreme law. Destruction devils. Dongbua Shui was greatly startled too. It had been too long. Dongbua Shui had not reaped any harvest for more than 1 trillion years. Even though he had drawn out some regions with a higher probability based on the intelligence reports, he had been pursuing for far too long. He had killed countless devils over such a long period. He even thought that he had only met some devils this time. But in the end, it was a huge surprise. And there were a total of 6 destruction devils. This was an unprecedented harvest. After suffering came happiness. He had finally reaped some rewards after working hard for 1 trillion years. Chapter 987. That only destruction devil who remained conscious had long stepped into the 9th level. His heart tempering and willpower had reached a level comparable to the cultivators at the 9th level primal chaos realm. That was why he and another destruction devil led a team to protect General Mogu. No. This destruction devil waved his hand and kept the 2 comrades by his side into his Eden treasure. After that, his figure flashed and pounced into the palace hall. His speed was too fast. Even though Dongbua Shui Ying had immediately unleashed his destruction flower to this 9th-level destruction devil, just a distance of half a kilometer was easily covered. Dongbua Shui Ying's destruction flower was slightly slower by a step. Keep. Just as he kept the fallen General Mo Gu into his Eden treasure, the black-colored 9-petaled flower descended. The 9-petaled flower completely enveloped him. There were a total of 6 flowers, with the bigger flower enveloping the smaller flower. He was completely trapped within. At the same time, another 9-petaled flower descended and enveloped the other 2 destruction devils who fell into the illusory realm. Fortunately, Dongbua Shui Ying was still relatively relaxed. Because the 6 destruction devils, there was no need to mention about the 2 who fell into the illusory realm. Their lives were in his hands. As for that 9th-level destruction devil and the 3 he saved, they had also fallen into the 6th 9-petaled flower and could not escape. His illusory realm had already spread out. Behind Dongbua Shui Ying, an enormous fiery red cinnabar god bird appeared. As it flapped its enormous wings, a red aura spread out in all directions. Relying on the ancient cultivation inheritance to cast the illusory realm, that red aura enveloped that destruction devil who remained conscious. He had already revealed his true appearance, a tall and big golden-armored destruction devil with a single horn. Dongbua Shui Ying. The single-horned, golden-armored destruction devil had a savage expression. His single horn was incredibly sharp. He let out a furious roar. He was furious and desperate. He felt despair for his own fate and for General Mo Gu. Protecting General Mo Gu was his mission, but he could feel that incomparably horrifying illusory realm. His willpower had to spend a large portion of his heart force resisting against this illusory realm. In his opinion, there were only a few golden-armored destruction devils who could resist against this illusory realm. Dongbua Shui Ying took a step forward and collected the thousands of innocent cultivators who had fallen into the illusion. At the same time, with a thought, the 9-petaled flower started to destroy itself. Boom, boom, boom. The 9-petaled flower enveloping the horned, golden-armored devilish lord began to crumble and vanish. At the same time, Dongbua Shui Ying unleashed a new 9-petaled flower. Flowers were annihilated one by one and born one by one. Meanwhile, the horned, golden-armored devil was enduring the terrifying attacks. He roared as wounds appeared on his body over and over again, but they healed over and over again. Within the grotto heaven treasure, the 3 destruction devils that were saved were here, and one of them was General Mo Gu. There was no illusory realm here, and they had regained their consciousness. What happened? The 3 of them stood there in a daze. Swish! A wisp of golden light descended and turned into the clone of the single-horned, golden-armored fiend. He glanced around and said in a low voice, Dongbua Shui Ying has discovered us. The 3 of you have fallen into an illusion just now. Illusory realm? The 3 of them were startled and furious. According to the intelligence, Dongbua Shui Ying's 9-petaled flower was extremely formidable. The moment they were trapped, even 9th-level destruction devils could not escape. We can't escape. The single-horned, golden-armored devilish lord shook his head. There is no more hope. His illusory realm completely counters General Mo Gu. Furthermore, I believe that the cosmos gods from the cultivator side are rushing over and will be arriving soon. Of the 6 of us, only I can maintain my consciousness, and I can only unleash part of my strength and can't break apart his 9-petaled flower. Instead, I am getting injured. No, impossible. General Mo Gu roared. He revealed his true body. His entire body was covered in fine golden scales. Only his head had 3 black, curved horns that pointed forward. It's impossible for me to die here. Absolutely impossible. General Mo Gu was unwilling to believe it. Ever since he was born, his status was incomparably noble. And even the kings attached great importance to him. He stood above almost all the other golden-armored devils. After coming to the world of cultivators, his days became even more wonderful. He felt that he could wantonly devour the lives of cultivators. His strength was also improving. He felt that he would reach the 9th level in the future and even become a king in the future. He was ambitious. He felt that with his talent, he could become the strongest king after becoming a king. But now, Dongbo Shueing suddenly descended and destroyed everything. Kill yourself, the single-horned, golden-armored, devilish lord said. Landing in the hands of cultivators will reveal much of our intelligence. If you don't believe me, you can look outside. Wong, the Eden treasure warped in midair. One could see the battle scene outside. The true body of the single-horned, golden-armored devilish lord was fighting wantonly, yet he was already riddled with scars. Furthermore, he was surrounded by many enormous black flowers. We are finished. Dongbo Shuang. 2 golden-armored devilish lords roared, yet their bodies began disintegrating. No, I don't believe it. My shadowless talent will definitely allow me to escape. General Mo Gu's body instantly disappeared. Clearly, he had completely shadowless. If you go out, you will be captured alive by him. The single-horned, golden-armored, devilish lord anxiously roared. But General Mo Gu had already disappeared. Clearly, General Mo Gu was unwilling to give up. He was extremely confident in his talent. He felt that the reason he had been attacked previously was because he had not used his talent. As long as he immediately teleported out, the 9-petaled flowers would not obstruct him at all. He had a chance of escaping. I will definitely be able to escape. I definitely can. General Mo Gu easily passed through the Eden treasure and arrived in the outside world. Once he arrived, he immediately teleported. But the illusory realm was constantly being maintained. It was constantly suppressing the single-horned, golden-armored devilish lord and causing the other 2 to continue sleeping. But the moment General Mo Gu left the Eden treasure and arrived in the outside world, he immediately fell into the illusory realm. He did not even have the slightest ability to resist. Damn! The single-horned, golden-armored devilish lord looked at General Mo Gu's body that had appeared out of thin air. He could not help but be furious. Die! The single-horned, golden-armored, devilish lord turned into countless golden lights that tunneled into the body of General Mo Gu. Just like how the cultivators could kill one another, the golden-armored, devilish lord could also kill one another. For the sake of not letting General Mo Gu fall into the hands of the cultivators, the single-horned, golden-armored, devilish lord had immediately tunneled in and destroyed General Mo Gu's soul. He was also destroying General Mo Gu's body. But even though General Mo Gu's body was destroyed, his scaled armor remained and could not be destroyed. Wong, the distant space began distorting. It's a pity that they captured 2 of them alive. The single-horned, golden-armored, devilish lord immediately took the initiative to destroy himself. Snow Eagle, how is it? The black-robed, green-haired, male void primogenitor appeared with a chuckle. We discovered 6 destruction devils. 4 should have died, and 2 were captured alive. Dongbo Shueing chuckled and said. Following that, he waved his hand and searched through the Eden treasure of the single-horned, golden-armored devilish lord. It's a pity that he could not find the golden-armored devilish lord. Clearly, the other 2 had already killed themselves. This was within his expectations. Very soon, Wu Zhu and Blade Emperor arrived one after another. 2 were captured alive. Wu Zhu and Blade Emperor looked at the 2 golden-armored devilish devils who had fallen into a deep sleep. One was at the peak of the 8th level, and the other was at the 9th level. Such a formidable, illusory realm. Even though Dongbo Shueing had started reducing the region of the illusory realm, Wu Zhu and the others were still affected by the illusory realm when they got closer. They had never encountered such a terrifying illusory realm before. Even though there were quite a few ancient cultivators at the primal chaos realm who specialized in the illusory realm, they were far inferior to Dongbo Shueing. Chapter 988. Wu Zhu and Blade Emperor had to admit that even at their level, they could feel waves of illusory feeling assaulting their souls, forcing them to divert some of their heart force to resist against the illusory realm. It can already affect us now. If Dongbua Shui Ying could become a cosmos god using the Tao of Mirage, then his illusory realm would be even more frightening. By then, even we have to divert a portion of our heart force to resist against it. Wuzu transmitted. Blade Emperor agreed. A cosmos god who cultivated the Tao of Mirage might not be formidable in direct combat, but in a battle between many cosmos gods, relying on the illusory realm to influence the enemy would be of great use. His techniques against the soul are purer and more direct than hard imitation. Blade Emperor said. Hard imitation religious master was his subordinate. As the two of them conversed, they walked towards the two sleeping golden-armored destruction devils. These two golden-armored destruction devils had been teleported together by Dongbua Shuang, but after falling into the illusory realm, even if he killed them, they would be willing to die and would not wake up from it. This was absolute oblivion. The two golden-armored destruction devils in front of them were emitting a wicked, destructive aura, though their appearances were still disguised as cultivators. South, Dongbua Shui Ying went to the side to collect the spoils of war. At the same time, his gaze was attracted by the scales left behind by General Mo. Originally, he was still rejoicing that he had finally gotten the materials left behind by the golden-armored destruction devils. The golden-armored destruction devils could transform into a wicked, destructive energy. Hence, most of them would be completely annihilated after death. Only a few of them would leave behind the materials left behind, and most of them could be sold for a high price. Amen? Dongbua Shui Ying was soon attracted by the fine golden scales. On the scales, there was some faintly discernible light revolving. Dongbua Shui Ying had already cultivated the walker's hidden secret to the 50th level realm. He had also spent a long time in the Lost World corridor researching the profound mysteries of the void. In addition to the complete second and third diagram of the Emperor Jiyun 4 diagrams, he had cultivated them to a relatively profound realm. At this moment, when he looked at the scales, especially the faintly discernible rays of light flowing on the scales, he immediately discovered some of the mysteries of voidification. It seems to be simpler and more direct than Emperor Jiyun's second painting. Dongbua Shui Ying felt a sense of simplicity. The technique that Emperor Jiyun had invented was too complicated. These scales, but it was truly simple. Good treasure. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately woke up. He understood that he needed time to study the remaining scales. To him, the scaled armor wasn't for him to sell Origin World stones. It was more suitable for him to study the profound mysteries hidden within. This was the laws and profound mystery system. Everything depended on the true essence and profound mysteries behind it. Snow Eagle. A voice rang in his ears. Dongbua Shui Ying was shocked as he looked at the void primogenitor beside him. The black-robed, green-haired void primogenitor's eyes lit up as he looked at the scaled armor. He muttered, "With your realm, you should be able to see the profound mysteries of the void contained within this scaled armor, right? It is completely different from the walker's hidden secret that I had created. Only when my walker's hidden secret reaches large success would it be able to reach the pinnacle of voidification. And it seems to be much more concise than what I had comprehended. It is so concise and beautiful, too wonderful. I know that you, Snow Eagle, must comprehend this scaled armor. This is your spoil of war, and I won't force you. However, when my incarnation comes to your great void heaven temple, you must let me comprehend it together with you. I will comprehend it together with Ancestor. At that time, I'm afraid I will need Ancestor's guidance." Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. Void primogenitor. What realm was he at? The primogenitor who created the Void Walker lineage had extraordinary comprehension abilities. Naturally, he could tell that the scaled armor was extraordinary with a single glance. Furthermore, the Void Walker lineage was originally proficient in voidification. The Void primogenitor had already reached the pinnacle of voidification. However, regardless of whether it was him or Emperor Jiyun, Both of them had comprehended the pinnacle of voidification techniques. In terms of the conciseness of their techniques, the profundities on the scaled armor were the most concise. Secondly, the techniques Emperor Ying comprehended were also concise. Lastly, the void primogenitor created the walker's hidden secret. Dongwu Shui Ying was also happy to agree. After all, the void primogenitor's research might be deeper than his. At that time, the void primogenitor might even be able to help him. Who? Dongwu Shui Ying waved his hand and kept the scaled armor. Dongwu Shui. Wuzu spoke. Dongwu Shui Ying and void primogenitor walked over. Void primogenitor had to divert 20% to 30% of his heart force to resist against the illusory realm. He could not help but chuckle at Dongwu Shui. Snow Eagle, if you were to break through to the Cosmos God realm using the Tao Mirage, I would most likely not have much strength left under your illusory realm. How hard is it to become a Cosmos God? Dongwu Shui said. Dongwu Shui, you interrogate the two of them. Wuzu pointed to the two sleeping golden armor destruction devils by the side. How did they get through the spatial barrier, and what secrets do they have? All right. Dongwu Shui nodded. He immediately began interrogating them through the illusory realm. Even though these two golden armor destruction devils were captured alive, it was troublesome to interrogate them because their souls were too powerful. Trying to search their souls? Most likely, they could only search through some fragmented information before their souls shattered. Dongwu Shui Ying's illusory realm could be stealthily guided within the illusory realm, allowing him to probe through everything. Time passed by second. Ancestor Sorcerer, Blade Emperor, and Void Primogenitor were watching from the side. Shui was controlling the illusory realm to deliberately guide these two golden armored destruction devils, interrogating them for all sorts of information. He was even comparing the information provided by the two golden armored destruction devils. Gradually, Shui became more and more astonished. I'm done interrogating them. Dongwu Shui Ying turned around and said, How is it? Wuzu, Blade Emperor, and Void Primogenitor anxiously asked. They had always wanted to know how the destruction devils got through the spatial barrier. Only by knowing the reason would they have the means to deal with them. Dongwu Shui Ying added, Ever since the golden armor destruction devils were born, they have all sorts of talents. Some specialize in bewitchment, some control flames, and some control space, of which there are two golden armor destruction devils with terrifying talents. Within the destruction devils, this talent is called shadowless. The moment they use this talent, they would be able to fuse with space as one entity. By then, unless they could destroy the essence of space, it would be impossible to injure them. Since they are one entity with the essence of space, unless they could isolate the essence of space, they could easily penetrate through it. What? Wuzu and Blade Emperor were startled. Pinnacle of voidification? Void Primogenitor's expression turned cold. Pinnacle of voidification? Wuzu, Blade Emperor, and Void Primogenitor understood. Emperor Jiyun and Void Primogenitor could reach this stage of absolute perfection, and they naturally understood it too. But it was extremely difficult to do so. One had to know that Emperor Jiyun and Void Primogenitor were both cosmos gods in the void aspect. But one of the destruction devils who had the shadowless talent has died. Dongwu Shui said, He is ultimately a golden armored destruction devil, and his heart and willpower are slightly weaker. He fell from my illusory realm. I guess this should be the material of his body. Saying that, he waved his hand, causing those fine golden scales to appear. Voidification? Wuzu and Blade Emperor looked at it. Void Primogenitor added, This scaled armor contains the profound mystery of voidification. This is the spoil of war of Dongwu Shui, and you can't snatch it from him. He has agreed to let me comprehend it by the side. The few of us will naturally not snatch it from him. Dongwu Shui has contributed so much, and we don't even have the time to compensate him. Wuzu said. He pointed to the two sleeping golden armored destruction devils. In a while, I'll seal the souls of the two of them, preventing them from committing suicide. The two of them will be temporarily locked up by you, Dongbua Shuang. If there are any questions, I'll let Dongbua Shuang interrogate them. All right. Dongbua Shuang nodded. How about this? Since you can't kill the two of them temporarily, it will be a loss to you. Rest assured, we'll remember your contribution, and we will definitely not mistreat you. Wu Zhu said. Also, I'll occasionally send an incarnation to the Great Void Heaven Temple. By then, you can't hide this scaled armor. You have to let me have a good look at it. Being the ancestor of hex cultivation, he was passionate about researching the myriad existences. This scaled armor contained the profound mystery of voidification and was clearly precious. Chapter 989. Since we understand that they relied on voidification, we have to think of ways to break it. Wu Zhu frowned and shook his head. It is said that Emperor Jiyun had a way to break it. If I were to use my absolute move, I could do it within a short period. But it is not quite possible to do so in this enormous spatial barrier. Blade Emperor and Void Primogenitor nodded. The spatial barrier was too vast. It surrounded the Lost World Corridor, the inner region, and the outer region. It was a complete seal. Such a vast area. Emperor Jiyun could use these techniques on arrays, but it was a pity that he died. Wu Zhu and the others could not seal the voidification over a large area. It seems we can only target the weakness of the individual. Wu Zhu said, Amen. One has died because his soul and willpower are not strong enough. This is the weakness of the soul. Blade Emperor nodded. Dongbua Shuang said, I found out during the interrogation that the one who died was newly born. He is currently at the peak of the 8th level. In terms of soul and willpower, he should be at the bottom even amongst peak 8th level golden armor destruction devils. That was indeed the case. General Mo Gu was so powerful because the kings favored him. His attainments in soul and willpower were comparatively weaker. As for the other one who has the shadowless talent, he has reached the 9th level. Dongbua Shuang said, it will be troublesome to deal against his soul. Even he did not have a confidence. As for the golden armor destruction devils at the 9th level, he could deal against those with a weak heart temperament. But those with a strong heart and willpower could still maintain their consciousness under the illusory realm. Like this time, that single-horned golden armor destruction devil was able to maintain his consciousness. The final golden armored destruction devil with the shadowless talent could maintain his consciousness even when facing Dongbua Ying's illusory realm. With his talent, he could easily escape. In terms of dealing against the soul, Dongbua, you are considered number one. Wu Zhu shook his head. Even though I have some techniques, I do not specialize in studying the soul. Blade Emperor and Void Primogenitor became silent. It seemed none of the newly born cosmos gods specialized in dealing against the soul. There are no direct methods, Wu Zhu said. Then we can only use some stupid methods to increase the difficulty of the void form penetration. Once we confirm his position, Jiezu will be able to break his void form method. Dongbua Shuang immediately understood what was going on. Wu Zhu would need to execute some sort of ultimate move to break the formation, but Jiezu would be able to do it in an instant. Hence, it was more suitable for him to make a move. All right, Dongbua Shuang added. I've also found out that there are a total of 11 kings on the side of the destruction devils. Actually, there were a total of 15 in history, and 4 have died. Among the 11 kings, there is one called Emperor Jun who is the strongest. 11. Wu Zhu, Blade Emperor, and Void Primogenitor's expressions changed. They are actually hiding so much strength. Blade Emperor asked, Dongbua, have you found out how many golden armored graded layers they have? I've asked them before. This is a secret amongst the destruction devils, and they aren't too clear about it. But it shouldn't be a lot. Dongbua Shuang said, I reckon there shouldn't be more than 10. The harvest this time was huge. The cultivators had truly peeked through the strength of the destruction devils. They even knew how the destruction devils could penetrate through the spatial barrier. Dongboi Shui Ying had even eliminated one of the two destruction devils with the shadowless talent. And on the other side, the destruction devils were infuriated. General Mo Gu has already been exposed. We are only left with one person with the shadowless talent, General Fu Qian. This time, there are even golden armored destruction devils who were captured alive. They are the protectors of General Mo Gu and know of his talent. This shadowless talent will definitely be exposed. From now on, we will not casually start a war. All of us have been to the cultivator world before. Hence, we should stay in the Lost World corridor peacefully. We will wait for the second person with the shadowless talent to appear before starting a war. We can't afford to lose. It's that Dongbua Shuang again. Damn, everyone bear with it. The longer we wait, the greater our advantage will be. By then, we don't have to sneak through and can directly break through the spatial barrier. Amen. We can only bear with it. The destruction devils were rapidly changing their strategy. After all, they were only left with one person with a shadowless talent, and they could not afford to lose. Great Void Heaven Temple. The Mirage Palace cavern dwelling occupied a huge area. This was after all one of the 13 palaces in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Amazing, amazing. Void Primogenitor sat there looking at the fine golden-scaled armor hanging in the distance. Void Primogenitor was startled as he watched. He had reached the pinnacle of the void, and thus had a deep understanding of the profound mysteries of this fine golden-scaled armor. Wuzu had also sent his incarnation over. He was carefully observing the armor, frowning and shaking his head at times. Dongbua Shuang was also researching it. Pinnacle of Voidification? Swordmaster and Forefather Tion, you were also looking at that scaled armor from the side. Even Devil Mountain Primogenitor had sent his incarnation to sit by the side and watch while drinking. Clearly, many cosmos gods desired to have the pinnacle of voidification technique, because with this technique and their cosmos god souls, ordinary attacks would be ineffective against them. Normal attacks were useless against them. Even a Sacred Master would find it difficult to kill them. But it was difficult to reach the pinnacle of voidification. Even Guqi had not reached absolute perfection in it. Previously, only Emperor Jiyun and Void Primogenitor had achieved it. Clearly, they had a high requirement for their attainments in the void aspect, and this scaled armor seemed to be much simpler, giving the cosmos gods hope of learning it. Too difficult. Too difficult. Devil Mountain Primogenitor shook his head as he drank. Dongbua Shui Ying experienced it deeply. After all, he was a void walker and had reached the 50th level realm. He also had the 4 diagrams absolute art from Emperor Jian. In terms of foundation in the void aspect, only Void Primogenitor had a higher understanding than him. As for the other cosmos gods, they could not compare to him in the void aspect. With a group of cosmos god incarnations here, Dongbua Shui Ying studied them for a while before returning to his cultivation room. He closed the cultivation room. Given the techniques of the Great Void Heaven Temple and Dongbua Shui Ying's illusory realm technique, nobody could spy on what was happening within the cultivation room. I haven't checked the spoils of war this time. Dongbua Shui Ying waved his hand. This time, of the 6 destruction devils, 4 died, and 2 had their souls temporarily sealed within the Great Void Heaven Temple. Naturally, the treasures were in his hands. He easily refined them and began pouring out the items within. Large amounts of items kept appearing. Fortunately, being one of the Hall Masters, this cultivation room occupied a huge area, spanning a few kilometers. It could be used to practice his techniques. These cultivator treasures should be obtained after killing the cultivators, right? Dongbua Shui Ying felt slightly frustrated as he looked at it. Very soon, all the treasures were brought out. Dongbua Shui Ying even discovered a large number of cultivators trapped within some of the Eden treasures. Dongbua Shui Ying had also decided that he would set these cultivators free after some time. Large amounts of items were brought out. They clashed against each other and formed a small mountain. Waiting until it gradually calmed down, Dongbua Shui Ying's gaze landed on a particular location on this small mountain. That place was clearly empty, yet it seemed like there was a transparent item supporting other items. Furthermore, with Dongbua Shui Ying's absolute control over his surroundings, he was able to discover the minute clashing sounds here. It is transparent? I can't see it. Even my domain can't detect its existence. Dongbua Shui Ying walked over with a startled expression. As he got closer, that originally transparent item gradually became visible. It was a scarlet plate. There were profound words on it, and one could understand its meaning with a single look. It was the 3 words Realm Heart Order. The Realm Heart Order was incredibly mysterious. Only by obtaining its recognition could one see it and obtain it. Otherwise, one would not be able to see it even if it was right in front of him. Chapter 990. Dongbua Shui Ying was incredibly startled. Previously, he could not see or sense it, but when he got closer, the token actually appeared, and he could sense it. Realm Heart Order? Dongbua Shui Ying extended his hand to pick up the Realm Heart Order. The token was slightly cold at first, but it gradually became warm. Dongbua Shui Ying revealed a look of bewilderment. Given his current identity, he understood many secrets and rare treasures. He had never heard of the Realm Heart Order before, but he could see that this Realm Heart Order was extraordinary. It is a token, and there are words on it. Unless it was refined by a mysterious expert, Dongbua Shui Ying thought. There were indeed some secret treasures with mysterious origins in the primal chaos void. This Realm Heart Order seemed to be one of them. He then began sending a strand of consciousness into the Realm Heart Order to investigate. Wang. At the moment when his consciousness permeated the Realm Heart Order, so the Realm Heart Order immediately melted. It followed the ripple of consciousness and tunneled into the soul of Dongbua Shui Ying. Not good. Dongbua Shui Ying was startled. The soul was the core of life of a cultivator. What would happen if an external object tunneled into his soul? Wang. The Realm Heart Order turned into a scarlet energy that fused into his soul. At the same time, a large amount of information was transmitted to Dongbua Shui Ying. Dongbua Shui Ying gradually revealed a look of astonishment. The Realm Heart Order was refined by an extremely mysterious existence called Yuan. It was also an opportunity to aid the later generations in their cultivation. By activating the energy of the Realm Heart Order, under the protection of the Realm Heart Order, one could reincarnate into another enormous world not any weaker than the primal chaos void, the Realm Heart Great Land. The Realm Heart Great Land was at the same level as the primal chaos void, though its foundation was deeper. Furthermore, experiencing 2 different Supreme Law origin worlds would be of great help to becoming a cosmos god. Those who were stuck at the primal chaos realm bottleneck could choose to activate the Realm Heart Order and reincarnate into the Realm Heart Great Land. After being tempered in the 2 origin worlds, the chances of becoming a cosmos god would greatly increase. In addition to the deeper foundation of the Realm Heart Great Land, but the moment they reincarnated, he had to become a cosmos god before he could activate the Realm Heart Order again and reincarnate back into the primal chaos void. The energy of the Realm Heart Order would be completely depleted. Reincarnation? Dongbua Shui Ying was in disbelief. Don't tell me this is some kind of conspiracy? Within the universe, there were also reincarnations. Back then, his wife, Jing Xiao, had reincarnated into the material realm. With a bit of her true spirit, she was not rejected by the material realm. However, his memories would only be awakened when he became a god. And according to what the Realm Heart Order said, with the protection of the Realm Heart Order, those who reincarnated into the Realm Heart Great Land would have their memories completely protected. However, would Dongbua Shui Ying dare to believe it? Abandon everything? Abandon my current body and soul? Isn't that suicide? Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. Furthermore, the information transmitted by the Realm Heart Order is definitely real. That Yuan refined this order token with good intentions? It might be a conspiracy. Although this mysterious expert called Yuan might be kind and give the cultivators another opportunity, it was impossible for him to do so. But there was another possibility. Yuan might be a conspiracy. For instance, if he abandoned his fleshy body and soul, allowing a strand of true spirit to enter the Realm Heart Order. The Realm Heart Order might seize the chance to seize his body. Most likely, only cultivators who are stuck at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm would be willing to bet everything on this path. Dongbua Shuang thought. No matter what, Dongbua Shuang, had an overwhelming talent. He had cultivated for a short period, yet he had grasped two great ninth-level techniques. He was confident of stepping into the Cosmos God realm. Naturally, he would not gamble on activating the Realm Heart Order. Expel. Dongbua Shuang immediately wanted to expel that scarlet energy entrenched in his soul. After all, he was not at ease with this mutated energy entrenched in the core of his soul. Wong. No matter how he tried to expel it, the mutated energy formed by the Realm Heart Order remained entrenched in his soul. He could not expel it all. Damn. Dongbua Shuang's expression changed. The moment he probed it, it had tunneled in. Now, he could not expel it all. A piece of command token could forcefully tunnel into my soul, and I can't expel it at all. This technique is quite formidable. Dongbua Shuang thought. Who exactly is this person called Yuan? Why haven't I heard of him before? With such a formidable technique, the information transmitted by the Realm Heart Order might be real. It might be real, or it might be fake. He, Dongbua Shuang, had a bright future ahead of him. It was impossible for him to abandon his fleshy body and soul. Since I can't expel it, I can only temporarily cast it aside. Dongbua Shuang felt helpless, but the Realm Heart Great Land mentioned in this information is actually an origin world on the same level as the Primal Chaos Void. It has a different supreme law. Furthermore, its foundation is deeper. Dongbua Shuang began pondering. Ever since he could teleport through an ultra-long distance, Shuang had thought of the possibility that the Primal Chaos Void might not be unique in its own right. And now, judging from the Realm Heart Order, the Realm Heart Great Land should be on the same level as the Primal Chaos Void with a much deeper foundation. Dongbua Shuang could not do anything against the Realm Heart Order, and he did not plan on abandoning his fleshy body and soul to reincarnate. Hence, he temporarily cast it aside. Within the Primal Chaos Void, there was an incomparably vast sea of fire. At the center of the sea of fire, there was an incomparably huge fire star. Its power was endless, and even cosmos gods would pale when facing it. If they were too close to it, their bodies would be incinerated. This fire star was the sun star during the era of the primitive ancient sacred world. In the past, the primitive ancient sacred world had the largest sun star and a moon star revolving around it. Later on, the primitive ancient sacred world shattered, and this most primitive sun star naturally flew far away. After all, the current ancient sacred world was too small. It could not withstand the pressure formed by the most primitive sun star and moon star revolving around it. It drifted here, suppressing all directions. It was also a manifestation of the supreme law. It represented extreme heat and explosion. To cosmos gods, it posed a threat to their lives. Oh, in the interior of the primordial sun star, there were explosions at all times, and there were also flames that roiled like dragons. And at this moment, an incomparably huge black figure slowly appeared on the surface of the primordial sun star. When it appeared, it occupied about 1/3 of the entire primordial sun star. When it appeared, the exploding flames in the surroundings immediately quietened down. I was in a daze, so I was forced to wake up. This incomparably huge black figure slowly opened its eyes. That pair of enormous dark yellow eyes seemed to be able to penetrate through time-space. It had an enormous tortoise shell. Its abdomen was covered with many pieces of scales that were like rocks. Its neck was slightly thicker, and its head was relatively fierce. Following that, its figure transformed. This huge figure that occupied 1/3 of the surface of the primitive sun star instantly turned into a thin, small, old man. He was incomparably thin, and he looked like a bag of bones. Everyone said that Jiezu was thin and small. This old man's physique was similar to Jiezu, though he was much thinner. It was as if a gust of wind could blow his old bones away. This thin, small old man leaned on a walking stick. He had a hunchback. He coughed twice. Who is drawing my aura? Who is forcing me to wake up? Chapter 991. He was in a deep and comfortable sleep, but the external world had been guiding his aura, causing him to wake up in the end. The thin, small old man leaned on his walking stick as he stood on the primitive sun star. He followed the aura that attracted him over. He looked at the endless void, and very soon, he saw a white-robed young man currently using his illusory realm to descend on a mountain range to investigate. He was none other than Ying, who was pursuing the destruction devils. Hee. The thin, small old man chuckled. He who was so thin that his eyes were squinted. How rare. It is actually the Cinnabar inheritance that awakened me, and he created the 10th transformation of the Cinnabar inheritance. This Cinnabar inheritance is the least proficient of the 4 inheritances I left behind. For inheritances, Imperial Dragon inheritance, Cinnabar inheritance, 9 Serpents inheritance, and Mountain Beast inheritance. Other than the Cinnabar inheritance that focused on the soul, the other 3 inheritances focused on the fleshy body. Furthermore, the Cinnabar inheritance was considered a lubricant for the other 3 inheritances, allowing them to fuse together perfectly. Look at his illusory realm. TSK. It is quite interesting. It seems to have part of the concept of cosmos gods. The thin, small old man became more and more satisfied. Originally, I am slightly angry at being woken up. But after seeing such a good young fellow, the thin, small old man laughed. He looked at the incomparably huge primitive sun star beneath his feet. It is quite warm, and I slept quite comfortably. But it is time for me to go out and have a good look at this young fellow. Taking a step, the thin, small old man disappeared. He appeared once again. He arrived at the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World. It was as if he teleported there. There were no fluctuations in space at all. One had to know that Ancestor Desert, Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, and other primal chaos giants could only teleport through an ultra-long distance by relying on their ancient cultivation talent. Most teleportations would be similar to constructing a spatial corridor, and the disturbance would be huge. Donghua Shui Ying's ultra-long distance teleportation was through the black fog spherical holes, and the disturbance was slightly smaller. As for the skinny old man, no movement could be seen from him. The thin, small old man continued watching the movements of Donghua Shui. Donghua Shui stood in the middle of the vast desert, observing the surrounding areas through the black mist sphere. He didn't see anything special, and soon he locked onto a country. He first teleported to a nearby location, then teleported directly above this country. This was merely a nation ruled by a Unity Realm expert. The city occupied an area of 1 million kilometers, and the population wasn't too densely packed. After all, the stronger the expert, the more the cultivators would feel at ease. Only then would they be willing to submit. In a country ruled by a Unity Realm expert, usually only those who were weak and had no hope of entering a big city would be willing to live here. Donghua Shui stood in the air above the city, and the illusory realm had already descended upon the kingdom below. The countless lives within the city were all immersed in the illusory realm, experiencing their own experiences. There are no destruction devils. Donghua Shui immediately wanted to leave. In such a hurry? Cultivators have long lifespans. Don't be too impatient. Slow down. A chuckling voice rang out. Donghua Shui expression changed drastically. What? His illusory realm was such a formidable technique. He knew that even ordinary cosmos gods would be slightly affected by the illusory realm. Even if they weren't affected, he would still be discovered by him, even though the probing effect of the illusory realm wasn't as good as his law domain. The law domain only covered an area of 50,000 kilometers, and the illusory realm covered a much wider area. Dongbua Shuang looked towards the direction where the voice came from. Within a small wine shop by the side of the city, there was a thin and small old man currently sitting there eating and drinking in big mouthfuls. This scene seemed very ordinary, but one had to know that everyone else in this city had fallen into the illusory realm, and only this thin and small old man could still eat and drink. That was abnormal. South, Dongbua Shuang took a step in midair before descending. He arrived by the side of this small wine shop. He immediately bowed. Dongbua Shuang greets Senior. Sit, sit. The thin and small old man continued eating. As he ate, he said, "It has been a long time since I ate. I'm slightly hungry." Dongbua Shuang immediately sat opposite him. He carefully observed this mysterious expert in front of him. Even his own illusory realm could not discover him. With his attainments in the illusory realm, Dongbua Shuang was certain that this was absolutely in existence who cultivated to the highest level, the cosmos god realm. Furthermore, he should be extremely powerful even amongst cosmos gods. But there were only so many cosmos gods, and he should know all of them. A new cosmos god? He should be at the primal chaos realm in the past, right? But according to the intelligence he understood, almost every primal chaos realm expert should be recorded, including those from the ancient sacred religion and ancestor mother religion. Nonetheless, he could not find any similar information regarding this thin and small old man in front of him. Hoochie hoochie. The thin and small old man continued eating. He was enjoying himself. Plate after plate of food entered his stomach, and finally he finished everything. Comfortable, comfortable. I still have to drink after eating. The food in this wine shop is still all right, but the wine is lacking. The thin and small old man patted his stomach. He looked at Dongbua Shuang. Do you have wine? Give me some good wine. Please. Dongbua Shuang waved his hand, causing 3 flasks of wine to appear on the table. Being a cultivator, he would bring many good wines with him. For the sake of tracking down the destruction devils, Dongbua Shuang had traveled across the primal chaos void. He loved good food and wine, and naturally, he had tasted the good wines from many places. He had even collected some of the best wines. These 3 flasks of wine were different. In terms of value, there were many wines that were more expensive than them. But those expensive wines were made from precious ingredients. As for the taste, these 3 wines were the 3 that Dongbua Shuang felt were the best. Z. The thin and small old man poured the wine. As he drank, he clicked his tongue. His slightly dim eyes lit up. Good wine, good wine. Who would have thought that you were able to bring out such good wine despite your young age? Dongbua Shuang watched from the side. He watched as the thin and small old man drank. After drinking more than half the wine, the thin and small old man looked up at Dongbua Shuang with a grin. Your temper is quite good. Saying that, he waved his hand. Who? That unique treasure which was originally in Dongbua Shuang's storage treasure landed in the hands of this thin and small old man. Dongbua Shuang's expression changed slightly. In the hands of this thin and small old man was that stone mirror. It was the guidance of the stone mirror that allowed him to cultivate the destruction flower. If not for the guidance, it would be much more difficult for him to reach the 7th level in the Unity realm. With your current strength, this piece of scale is useless to you. The thin and small old man chuckled. He waved his hand, causing the stone mirror to fly into the distant void. Following that, it tore through the void and disappeared. I should give it to those who need it more. The stone mirror was indeed useless to him now, because Dongbua Shuang had already opened up the 10th transformation of Cinnabar's inheritance. It had already surpassed the guidance of the stone mirror. This was left behind by Senior. Dongbua Shuang asked, It's a piece of scale that I shed. The thin and small old man chuckled. All right, my name is Sure. Senior Sure. Dongbua Shuang immediately greeted. He felt gratitude towards this thin and small old man. After all, Dongbua Shuang was someone who knew how to repay kindness. It was because of the stone mirror that he was able to create the destruction flower. On his path of cultivation, it was indeed of great help to him. After going to the hospital for a tetanus injection, his wounds had yet to heal. Thus, his typing speed was rather slow. However, it would only get faster and faster. Star. Chapter 992. The skinny old man drank his wine and asked curiously, "According to what I know, your attainments in the illusory realm can be considered as the #1 cultivator. I can see that you are still quite young. How did you manage to cultivate the illusory realm to such a level?" Dongbua Shuiying laughed. "Cultivation is all about moving forward step by step. When I was weak, when I was just a transcendent, I was already able to comprehend the illusory realm. I can be considered to be talented in this aspect, after which I continue to train and improve. After 1,000,000,000,000 years, I have unknowingly reached where I am today." "That's right, unknowingly." The skinny old man's eyes were misty. "Speaking of which, when I was at my weakest, I was merely a mutated beast with low intelligence. At that time, I only wanted to avoid being hunted down and live for a longer period of time. Unknowingly, I have reached where I am today." Dongbua Shuiying was inwardly shocked. Mutated beast? Low intelligence? When this senior Shi mentioned that the stone mirror was a piece of scale that he shed, Dongbua Shuiying already had some guesses. However, he had thought that Senior Shi had an extraordinary background. Unexpectedly, Senior Shi's background was even lower than his own. "I am old now, and I often reminisce about the past. I don't even have the motivation to cultivate anymore." The skinny old man laughed. "What do you think about the illusory realm? Do you think that everything within the illusory realm is real? It has its own intelligence, it has its own self, and it has its own experiences. The billions of living beings within the illusory realm are naturally real." Dongbua Shuiying said, "Currently, my illusory realm is only half a step away from the real world. In fact, every time I cast the illusory realm, I would only stop the time of the billions of living beings within the illusory realm. The next time I cast the illusory realm, these living beings would continue to appear. If he were to destroy the illusory realm forever, it would be akin to killing the billions of living beings within." Even Dongbua Shuiying couldn't bear to do that. It wasn't that he was foolish. Instead, at his level of cultivation, the billions of living beings within the illusory realm were no different from the living beings in the real world. They had their own self, they had emotions, they knew how to cultivate. Thus, whenever Dongbua Shuiying cast the illusory realm, it would always be the same huge illusory realm. The only difference was that there would be some living beings within the illusory realm. Are they all real? When the spell ends, it only stops the time in the illusion. The skinny old man fell into deep thought as he listened. After that, he shook his head and chuckled. In cultivation, sometimes the strength of one's spirit is very important. If you believe in it, you will succeed. If you don't believe it, it's even more impossible. "All right, I'm full now. It's time to go." The skinny old man stood up and looked at Dongbua Shuiying with a smile. "If fate allows it, we might meet again." With that, the skinny old man stood up shakily and walked away slowly with the help of his walking stick. As he walked, his figure gradually disappeared. Dongbua Shuiying did not even notice how the other party left. Amazing. Dongbua Shuiying was inwardly shocked. I always thought that in terms of void techniques, Emperor Jin was #1, but now it's void primogenitor. However, it seems that this mysterious Senior Shi is also unfathomable. Just this escape technique alone has surpassed the void primogenitors. At another location, in the Great Void Heaven Temple, the incarnation of Dongbua Shuiying immediately came to greet Forefather Tianyu. "Forefather," Dongbua Shuiying greeted. "Dongbua Shuiying, why did you come to see me personally?" Forefather Tianyu was slightly startled. Does Forefather know someone? Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand, causing the appearance of that Senior Shi to appear by the side. He was so skinny that he was all skin and bones. He was even leaning on a walking stick. He is extremely powerful. I feel that his utilization of the void is beyond that of void primogenitor. According to my deduction, he is definitely a cosmos god. Furthermore, he should be ranked at the forefront even amongst cosmos gods. I dare not say that he is comparable to Sacred Master, but he should at least be at the level of Jiezu and Ancestor Mother. Oh, Forefather Tian, you looked with shock. He carefully examined the appearance of that person and could not help but shake his head. I don't know him. I've never seen him before. Dongbua Shui Ying felt puzzled. Even though Sword Master was powerful, Forefather Tian Yu had far surpassed him in terms of living and experience. He had never seen this senior Shi before. A cosmos god, and at least at the level of Jiezu and Ancestor Mother. Forefather Tian Yu shook his head. How could there be no news of someone with such strength? Dongbua Shuang, are you certain you have seen him before? Is his strength that high? You aren't deceived by him? Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Impossible. That's right. With your attainments in the illusory realm and your law domain, trying to deceive you? That's too difficult. Forefather Tian Yu felt puzzled, but I have never seen someone with such strength before. This is the first time I've heard of it from you. That's weird. He asked Forefather Tian Yu before asking the Swordmaster about it. The Swordmaster had similarly never heard of this person before. Dongbua Shui Ying could only temporarily put it aside. No matter what, that mysterious, thin, small old man did not have any malicious intent towards him. It's just that his identity was too mysterious. Eastern Unicorn, Sacred World. At the peak of a towering, desolate mountain, the mountain winds were biting cold. A thin and small old man holding onto a walking stick was currently standing at the peak. Suddenly, a figure teleported to the side. It was none other than the thin and small Jiezu, who was garbed in loose green robes. Jiezu had a domineering aura between his brows. After all, even Sacred Master could hardly injure his fleshy body. If he were to wreak havoc, he would definitely be an ultra-huge devil. But the usually domineering Jiezu was currently respectfully bowing to the thin and small old man by the side. Teacher, you are awake. This disciple thought it would be hard for me to see Teacher again. At this moment, Jiezu could hardly conceal his emotions. Clearly, he was excited. The thin and small old man laughed as he patted Jiezu's head. Both of them were of similar height. The thin and small old man chuckled. You little devil. You're already the famous Jiezu now, yet you are still acting like a child. I will forever be Teacher's disciple. Jiezu did not have the slightest bit of fierceness. Instead, he was extremely obedient. He did not really treat many of his family members, as they had all died long ago. The only one who was still alive was him, his teacher. Teacher, why did you suddenly wake up? Jiezu asked again. He knew that his teacher was also cultivating in his sleep. Logically speaking, he would not be willing to wake up unless there was something important. Because of that little fellow named Dongbua Shuang, the thin and small old man said. Dongbua Shuang? Jiezu was surprised. He is indeed quite talented. In the past, my other lineage inheritance, the 4 extreme inheritances, was purely for the sake of fusing the body and soul into one. That was why I created the Cinnabar inheritance based on the divine beast Cinnabar. Actually, I'm not too good in the illusory realm. The thin and small old man sighed. Who would have thought that this Dongbua Shui Ying actually cultivated my Cinnabar inheritance and created the unprecedented 10th transformation? Jiezu softly nodded after hearing that. Amen. His illusory realm is quite formidable. Previously, he had contributed greatly by obtaining quite a bit of intelligence from the destruction devils. The few of you specialize in the fleshy body. The thin and small old man looked at the distant void. He was also looking at Dongbua Shui Ying, who was currently pursuing the destruction devils, and he is the only one who specializes in the soul. Teacher, are you prepared to accept him as your disciple and groom him? Jiezu asked. I do have his plan. The thin and small old man chuckled, but I'm not in a rush. I have just woken up and met him for the first time. I don't understand him too well. I'll test him a few times and observe him properly before making my decision. Chapter 993. Jiezu was secretly shocked. He knew his master's temperament very well. Even when he had first passed on the legacy to him and the Black Emperor, he had been very casual. It was only after spending time together that his relationship with his master deepened. Master has always been very casual. Even when I publicly spread the devouring lineage to produce many fiends, Master did not care. Even when he chose disciples, he would usually only bestow fortuitous opportunities and legacies. It was very casual, but this time he was very careful. How many more tries? Jezu was secretly shocked. The more cautious one was, the more it meant that his master really valued Dongbua Shuiying. The thin, small old man watched from afar. Little devil, this brat Dongbua Shuiying is very unique. I've met many young fellows, and I've even imparted some of my inheritances to disciples. Many of my inheritances have also been spread outside, but you should know that my forte lies in my fleshy body. The little fellows who are fated with me usually have powerful bodies. This is the first one. He has such attainments in the soul, and he even surpasses me in illusions. I will not be of much help to him. Even if I take him in as a disciple, I can only give him some fortuitous opportunities and let him go on his own. Jezu was tempted when he heard that. Fortuitous opportunities, his second junior apprentice brother, the Black Emperor, and his youngest junior apprentice brother had never received any truly great fortuitous opportunities. Only he, Jezu, had the highest potential and had received his master's true nurturing. But now, his master had prepared some fortuitous opportunities for Dongbua Shuiying. Clearly, his master had prepared more than one fortuitous opportunity. Of course, it was mainly in the aspect of illusions. His master could not guide Dongbua Shuiying. He could only provide help with fortuitous opportunities. If he succeeds, perhaps as his master, I will hope that he can give me some pointers in the future. The thin old man smiled and sighed. I'm stuck at this stage. I have a vague feeling that my soul is still lacking. Although I created the dream cultivation technique, which allows me to tap into my greatest potential and cultivate forever, I still cannot break through. Little fiend. The skinny old man looked at Jezu with a complicated look in his eyes. There were many little fellows who were fated to be with me. Unfortunately, all of them returned to nothingness. The destruction devils born in this primal chaos void are becoming stronger, and the primal chaos void is expanding continuously. Even though it will take quite a long time, it will eventually lead to the final great apocalypse. Everything will return to nothingness. You should properly cultivate and take another step. Only then can you survive the great apocalypse. This disciple will do his best, Jezu said solemnly. At your current level, all external forces are useless. In the end, you still have to rely on yourself. The skinny old man shook his head, and his figure immediately disappeared. Jezu stood there silently. He took a step forward and left as well. 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. There was a city that occupied an area of 500,000 kilometers, Green Thunder City. Even though this place was slightly desolate, the master of the city was an expert at the 4th level star pagoda strength and could intimidate an entire region. This caused a large number of cultivators to rush over and gather in the city. The city was very prosperous. Within a private room of a luxurious restaurant that occupied a relatively vast area. Mount Chime was currently half lying there. There were all sorts of delicacies and wine placed on the table in front of him. There were a total of 4 exquisite beauties serving him by the 2 sides. Some were massaging his shoulders, some were feeding him wine, and some were peeling fruits. And there were musicians and dancing girls in front of him. All of them were doing their best to serve this mysterious expert. They did not dare to slight him, because, in the earliest days, the 2 massacres had caused the higher-ups of this Green Thunder City to feel terror towards Mount Chime. It is too difficult to become a cosmos god. Mount Chime had a pair of scarlet eyebrows. He was filled with killing intent. He would occasionally travel around the world in search of opportunities to break through. After all, Mount Chime, had many treasures, and cosmos gods were not willing to form a grudge with this undying Mount Chime. His days were not uncomfortable, but it was unbearable for him to be stuck at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Humph. There will be more and more destruction devils. By then, Wu Zhu and the others will have to come and beg me to find golden-armored graded lairs. Mount Chime thought, this is a rare opportunity to slaughter them and get a huge amount of Origin World rocks. By then, I'll eat more than half of them, and it will definitely be greatly beneficial to my soul. Who knows, I might even become a cosmos god. Suddenly, Mount Chime abruptly looked up. His vision penetrated through the obstruction of the restaurant and houses. He saw a white-robed young man teleporting above the city. That white-robed young man had directly brought down a huge illusory realm. It was extremely fast and sudden. The illusory realm was huge and mysterious. In an instant, all living beings in the entire city had fallen into the illusory realm. The beauties, musicians, and dancers who were originally serving Mount Chime had all fallen into the illusory realm. The illusory realm had naturally engulfed Mount Chime. Mount Chime's expression changed slightly. The terrifying illusory realm invaded him. The world in front of him was distorted and about to change. A terrifying force was dragging his soul, wanted to drag his soul into another illusory world. The moment he fell into it, his life and death would be controlled by others. Mount Chime gritted his teeth. His willpower was like a blade as he forcefully broke free from the illusory realm. But for the sake of resisting against the illusory realm, he had to use 70% of his heart force to do so. Amen? And Dongbua Ying, who was pursuing the destruction devils, had discovered the only one who broke free from his illusory realm. But he soon recognized that this person was Mount Chime. Mount Chime, please forgive me. I'm currently. Dongbua Ying had just transmitted a message. Dongbua Ying, a furious roar sounded. With that restaurant as the center, everything within a region of 50,000 kilometers suddenly exploded and turned into ruins. This region was the domain of Mount Chime. Everything within the region of 50,000 kilometers was destroyed. Mount Chime stood in midair. Under his scarlet eyebrows, his cold eyes stared at the distant Dongbua Ying. You are truly arrogant to dare to act against me. Dongbua Ying's expression changed. His face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost as he looked at that region of 50,000 kilometers. Countless living beings within that region had died. Mount Chime, aren't you being too ruthless? Dongbua Ying looked at the distant Mount Chime. I'm drinking here, yet you suddenly unleashed your illusory realm? Mount Chime angrily roared. Dongbua Ying calmly replied, I'm under the orders of the cosmos gods to chase after the destruction devils across the primal chaos void. For the sake of preventing the destruction devils from escaping the moment they sense me, the moment I appear in a location, I will immediately unleash my illusory realm. Furthermore, with your strength, Mount Chime, you can easily resist against my illusory realm, and it won't harm you at all. Why must you vent your anger on the ordinary cultivators? I can kill them whenever I want. Why? Are you furious? Mount Chime sneered. Let Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master come and find me. Dongbua Ying became even more furious as he listened. He had always disliked this Mount Chime. He clearly had the strength, yet he requested for a huge sum of Origin World rocks. Otherwise, he would not deal against the destruction devils. One had to know that the destruction devils ultimately wanted to destroy the entire world. According to logic, every single cultivator should be working hard. Dongbua Ying, might have cultivated for a short period, but more than 99% of his time was spent chasing after the destruction devils. Occasionally, because of his illusory realm, he would not feel offended even if he met a cosmos god. After all, they could understand. This Mount Chime, Dongbua Ying disliked him in the past. At this moment, seeing how Mount Chime still roared out angrily just because of this minor matter, even though he had explained it to him previously, all living beings in the surrounding 50,000 kilometers were exterminated. He was so cruel. He was absolutely a devil. with Dongbua Shui Ying's methods. He should have directly killed him. It's a pity that he could not do so. Even Cosmos gods could not do so, because there were only 2 cultivators of the Myriad Realm Tavern Master lineage who had cultivated successfully. One was Myriad Realm Tavern Master, and the other was Mount Chime. Nobody could find any traces of his avatars. Dongbua Shui Ying was helpless against such an enemy who could not be killed. You don't even know how to apologize after offending me. Mount Chime sneered. His killing intent became denser. Mount Chime, I am unaware too. I seek for your forgiveness. Dongbua Shui Ying suppressed the anger in his heart. Even though he looked down on this person, he still chose to keep the peace. After all, there was no need to become enemies with a madman who could not be killed. Just a sentence, and it's fine. Mount Chime sneered. You should immediately take out 10,000 Origin World rocks and apologize. Only then can this matter be considered resolved. Otherwise, asterisk that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.